like every platonic solid shape can be mapped out, connecting like the centers of every circle in the flower of life and all that. You get Metatron's cube in there, just all sorts of crazy shit. And there's different ways to look at it. You could look at the negative space of the balls and stuff.
What's up, bro?
So, like, flower of life, I'm familiar with the tree of life, like the Sephiroth and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that like similar or like completely different?
It's
like
related, but it's the ellipses thing. Ellipses.
Flower of Life is really cool because it's sacred geometry. It's like 6 circles overlaid around one circle, and they all share a common diameter.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
all the
easy
points
to
are
draw
connected.
Yeah, it's really easy to draw with a compass and straight edge. And the reason this is called
It is a
sacred geometry.
hexagram.
Yeah, there's a lot of different shapes in there. You can construct pretty much any mathematical formula with this that you can with algebra. So back when we were using things like Roman numerals, and it was really hard to do like multiplication, division with like you can't do long division with Roman numerals. I mean you can, but good luck. People would use that to do math instead of symbols, and they were able to construct massive stone temples using that methodology rather than having to actually sit and like run calculations. It's a really fun thing if you actually want to get into compass and straight edge construction. I think that's the reason the Masons use the compass and square as their symbol, because if you think about it, all creation comes from something grasping a radius and drawing an arc.
Sacred. Also, for the record, this version of the flower of life, like how it's kind of cropped in that circle, apparently that's the incomplete version. Like the actual flower of life extends just a little beyond those borders. So it's
The seed, the
yeah,
flower,
like, there you go. That's
the
it.
bad, blah blah blah. There's you can continue the fractal infinitely if you like. And
But
like, there's no
it's another
center.
hex. It's It's
You
another
can
hex
even get the
pattern.
what is that? It's the really long Indian word for something that looks like a bunch of stars of David overlaid each other. Excuse me.
Why does your
But-
microphone sound like you're yelling down like a tunnel in like?
Oh,
you're like
probably because it's all the way over there.
Oh my god, you sounded like
Nice
a
one.
fireman, like in the Twin Towers, like after 3 days. Hold on, let me adjust.
Sorry about that.
No, you're from New York. I feel sorry about my metaphor. That was.
I'm
rude.
also
you guys
from New
hear me
York.
while I
Hey,
was
fellow
speaking?
New Yorker, what's up?
Hey, dude.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm
Yeah.
keeping the East Side, West Side. Each one of us gets to have. Wait, no, you're all East Siders. All
No,
of
let's
you.
do it. Let's do it by political axis. So
my
I should be on the top.
Bikini truther. What's up,
I should be
girl?
on the top right.
Yeah, that's true. Is this
No,
the
I'm
top
kidding.
right?
I'm not top right.
I went left. So for me, I'm on the stage. Am I on stage left? So you're. Is that what you? Maybe we do. I don't know.
I'm
I
not.
don't
No,
mind.
I'm
Let's
not
do it.
actually like a authoritarian conservative. That's all I
All
know.
of the Jews will think that I'm in charge if I'm on the top right over here. So that'll be good.
Well, everyone's gonna hate me if I'm on the top left because people who fucking likes who fucking likes.
I would put Kurt up here, but I don't want to put Sean underneath his legs.
Yo,
like that.
now everyone's gonna think I'm a pedophile, bro. Like, come on.
We'll put you back here. I don't know. We could just keep throwing around.
Yo, the
point
point is there is no good point. There's
The
no
point
good
is-
spots.
My point is that this is Wednesday and Kurt's here, so we're gonna play the APM theme song. Sorry, memory man. I'll play it later. I love you.
Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shout outs to Andreas.
Well, if that doesn't put you in the mood for philosophy and eroticism, then God help you. But welcome to the show. Good to see you all. How's it been? Sean, hi.
What's going on?
Just wanted to check with you first to make sure your microphone sound is because, like, you got that nice microphone, so it should sound like that. And
It
then,
looks nicer than it is.
and then Tara Chris. I'm gonna just see if I can call you Tara Chris. That kind of funny, right?
Yeah, I'll put that as my name next time.
But yeah, good to have Tara Risk here in the studio. Also doing it, well, I guess it's virtual, but it's a meta of studios that are coming together. And he's also swap casting or recording. So everybody check out Tara Risk, an American Time Machine. Kurt, who made the advanced philosophy memes based freaking memes song, which I like it. It's a good song. It's like, it's great. How are you? How are you, Kurt? What have you been thinking about this week?
Oh man, don't get me started. No, I'm
Microdosing on freedom. Yeah.
microdosing on freedom. That's a great. I can't even
next
write a
single,
song like that
I
because that's all your idea. You have to write a song called "Microdosing on Freedom," and
We can collab. It'll be like the Postal Service. I'm in.
No, I'm really just trying to be positive. Sometimes I have like negative stuff in my life, and I'm like, I shouldn't be negative, and that shouldn't affect other things. But
Do you
really,
mean like negative emotions for no reason, or just like environmental causes? Like you're in like a Souls like Lego Fortnite experience, and the skeletons are like attacking you in the dark.
it's partially internal, but I mean the world is often a reflection of what you just have internally going on. Not always, but then it's like there's the trial, you overcome it and try to help the people around you the best that you can. And I guess that's where I am. But like,
Is this about teaching the cave tour guide people to teach everyone else about Hollow Earth, or what do you mean again? Like more specifically, like how are you going to help these people? Like through tour guides or through pizza delivery, or which way?
so no. I'm so like, I'm not going to rant about delivery service today. It's that's behind me. That's
All right.
But going into my next rant, it's like right now, I think it's like now I have I have such a deep appreciation for things that connect us to the past, and things like we don't have that much that actually connects us to the past. Like we have history books, that's awesome. We have some natural landmarks that are really awesome, like really physical things like the ocean. Yeah, the ocean's awesome. Hopefully the ocean sticks around. I think it will. That's the cool thing about the ocean. It'll just probably be there for a while. But like things like caves, it's like we probably couldn't ruin every cave that's out there, but even so, like the caves that we can somewhat commercialize and show people, I think are really awesome. They're really cool in an awesome way because they tie us to the past. That's really the sum total of it. Is like we have this thing that was formed over millions of years, and there's not that many things that you can say, okay, this was constructed in a particular way, and we can see this in a particular way. And so the battle I get with is like how much of all of this is overly commercialized, and do people get under the impression that everything is just here for your entertainment? And I think I've mentioned this before, is like we live in such like an entertainment driven society, and there's always some, I guess, moral hazard that comes with that, because like if you treat everything in the mindset of am I entertained, it reduces, you can't take anything seriously. You can't actually even take the species seriously. I guess you can't take humanity itself seriously. It's like it's important to enjoy things, but like I think if you only are perpetually stimulated by like blah, here's pleasure and entertainment, that has an inverse effect after a while, to where that actually makes everything hellish and it's all just suffering again. So
I have thoughts on that. I have some what you just said.
Exactly.
I have some thoughts. When you say like the pitfalls of like being obsessed with entertainment, yeah, I totally agree. But I think it's about more than just being entertained. I really think it's about the human state of play, and like how you perceive it, and your relationship with it, and the value of it. Because it's really important for, I think, human exploration. Like, for example, let's think of video games. Video games is basically like an instantaneous machine that just that inhibits this state of play. And it's important because if you think about it, not everyone in the world can be like a space marine or a fucking pirate or a cowboy or something. Like, you know, in reality, most people have to work like shitty jobs, like being a fucking secretary or a paper pusher or something. So video games offer you a chance to experience that state of play where you get to see what it's like to be a space marine or a pirate or a cowboy. And I think that's really important for human development. You know, I think that's really important for evolution. So like, yeah, that could come through in the form of entertainment, but you know, I think it's really valuable in its own sense.
I just think this is funny, an empty chair. I agree with you both. Here's the funny thing. I don't see it as a problem, Kurt. What you just said is more evidence of Buddhism than I'd like to admit, right? Like, so in other words, we're living in a world that's filled with four sort of states of suffering, this sort of like dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, magga kind of thing, right? Where there's like the truth of suffering. We're always suffering. No, we have a cause of suffering. There's an end to suffering. And there's a path to the end of suffering. And in between all that is entertainment, right? These glimpses of moments, fleeting moments of happiness within the suffering, right? So in other words, entertainment is the most Buddhist thing that could possibly emerge. It's the existential Schopenhauer nihilism. The problem with that is that Buddhism is not the answer, as far as I'm concerned, because we don't reach a point of elevation just by acknowledging suffering and figuring out how to escape suffering. I think that's a very important step. It's like an entered apprentice kind of step. You have to learn. It's like before you go into battle, you should eat ice cream. You know, you should probably have some carbs and some sugar before you go into battle. It's not just because the ice cream tastes good and is sweet. You should also have it for that reason. But before you go into battle, you should be prepared. And part of that is to alleviate as much suffering as possible so that you can take on as much suffering as possible. Yeah, you gotta also empty your cup to fill it.
Yep. Stretch, have a pack of Gatorade and a towel.
Yeah.
We're gonna invent a new kind of Gatorade. It's gonna be like, it'll be different. I don't know.
Gatorade's already a weird fucking drink, but it makes sense why it's so potent. Just look what's fucking in it. It's like salt and like just electrolytes.
Yeah, we should just call it like reptilian juice.
Sweat.
Yeah, it's a mana juice for sure.
Anybody?
I don't know. Okay, so I almost never ever had
Reference to the
Gatorade.
Water Boy? No.
I almost never had Gatorade, but I'd seen Waterboy and I thought it seemed like such a good idea to try it. And I had it once when I was like younger and it just tasted really kind of salty. And then I saw Idiocracy, so I didn't do it again. But then I was in somewhere in the rainforest. I think it was in Iguazu in Paraguay. And there was like no water to drink anywhere. Like all these Coca-Cola run refrigerators and people.
Brondo, the thirst mule.
It was only Brondo. Like you could get, I think they had like Powerade from Coca-Cola and then they had like Gatorade. Yeah. So basically that was the first time I can really like consciously remember and think about it. And being as I was at like freshwater waterfalls all around me while drinking it, the dynamic was so much more. So I don't know. I'm kind of scared of it. Drink mineral water.
Look,
Yeah,
Brondo
Gatorade's like a
has
Florida
got
special
what
too.
plants crave, okay?
It's true,
Because
though.
plants crave electrolytes, and Brondo has what plants crave.
It's hard to argue that. It's true.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
it's
but
I feel like
suffering-
plants do probably need electrolytes to a certain point. You know,
Yeah.
like they would definitely die if you fed them nothing.
They just don't know any- they just don't know any better.
Means nothing will grow, and the salts and electrolytes are kind. You have a point that there are species that do require salt.
But this wasn't about salts. This was about suffering. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Because it seems to like in a world full of suffering, fleeting moments of happiness are defined as entertainment. So the most Buddhist thing is the world we live in.
To backtrack on our continue on.
Back to Rondo. Yeah.
I think it's all relevant. I didn't mean to totally disregard entertainment as an important human experience. I think it is an important human experience. It's just like right now, I guess this provides more context. I'm doing a lot of field trip. It's field trip season. So I'm taking tons of children in through this cave. And I'm like,
You're right
okay,
back.
what kind of information can be transcended to our literal future while we're doing this for 2 months? And wow, this is a huge pain in the ass because they don't always listen. They're just herded cattle into our public school system. So I have I mean, yes, I have a lot of negative things to say, and
Ghost
it's not-
stories. Do you tell them about the kids who died in the cave, and that if they like stick together, if they wander off, sometimes they can hear the kids screaming still?
I used to be a little bit more reserved with the kids, and now it's just like I just don't give a fuck. It's like, all right, if you are not going to behave, I'm just going to drive as fast as I can, and you're going to get the fastest tour of your life. I don't, and I'm not going to get fired because I'm cross-trained, and they have to spend a lot of money to get people to train to do specifically this. Like I should have a CDL and I should have some sort of like actual, I don't know, boating certification. I have neither, but I can do both functionally. So,
Some great movies took place in caves.
True.
Did we lose
Very
somebody,
true.
by the way?
Sean will be
Sean.
back. He said. Yeah.
Tomb
Whenever
Raider
I think
took
about what
place
to
in
tell
a
the
cave?
next generation, Bo Burnham comes through. The world
That's the
that's
movie?
around us
That's the example?
may be amazing, but how does it work? It must be complicated.
Oh my god, I can't believe I just remembered Tomb Raider. That was a pretty
You
like
can
woke as fuck
only
movie. Like they had the Illuminati in the first movie and shit.
I honestly don't think I saw the whole. I don't think I saw the whole first
Yeah,
Tomb Raider.
The
I need to
bad
do it.
guys in the first Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movie was the Illuminati, and they uncovered an artifact that could essentially control time, and that's what the movie is about. Like the battle to control this great artifact that could.
See, like principally, I hate Angelina Jolie. You know, like I ought to.
Well,
but
I mean, she's like a lizard person. you
But
know,
she
like,
was in Hackers, and I love Hackers so much. I don't care. You know what I mean?
lizard people make the best hackers. Okay.
Like, oh, I love
Yeah,
Hackers so much.
She was
I love
about
you,
blood
Hackers.
magic before it was cool, you know?
I love you, Hackers. I love you so much. It's okay that Angelina Jolie is in you. That's okay. I mean, that makes it. I'd watch more of her movies. I saw Gia, so she was. I believe that she. I really. She was believable. Like you could believe she was really naked in that movie.
Yo, Colin had a funny ass take on Hollywood. He was like, "Yeah, maybe maybe that they're actually doing something important, you know, with all their satanic rituals and their blood sacrifices and shit. Like maybe they're actually a part of some great cosmic balance and they know it, you know, like."
Oh, I thought you meant by making movies. See, like I think that movie magic is really important.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, like so one thing I was watching a video a friend of mine made, the Barely Human channel I recommend. He does like the Back to the Future predicts 9/11. One of the videos is this idea that auto tuners are performing a ritual by taking their voice and putting it into the perfect frequencies in order to you have to do that in order to serve God right in certain circumstances. You have to sing perfect notes. So if you can't do it, you can play it, but if you could sing it, it would be better. So they're trying to like pay tribute in a sense and fit themselves like yoga into the correct position of the universe. I thought that was really interesting because a lot of people hate autotune, but that makes the most sense that it would be an occult thing. Also, because autotune was invented by Halliburton or one of those companies for oil, right? They were trying to find oil and they used it for certain kinds of sonar and radar systems because you could tell, like the pitch would tell you whether this was water it was echoing through or oil it was echoing through. And from that, they were able to develop it.
Yo, the oldest known Western music was like religious. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, like in terms of contemporary music theory, like the oldest known medieval music is
Jesus clearly invented music. Let's get over it.
Gregorian chants. No, I think the point of it was I think there was something about like how the pitches affected your state of mind and put you specifically in a very holy state.
That's right. That's what we talked about last time we were on.
Well, it is all right, but let's elaborate on that for a second because the idea of things being illegal then makes that interesting because the idea that you would get in trouble, like, so if these rappers weren't auto-tuning and 1,000 years ago saying a like sharp note, that's not just bad form, you know, that doesn't just bother the audience. That's like illegal, you know?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. The idea that like they're so afraid of those particular sounds making people emotional or worse, right?
Also, I mean, there's also the scary stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure you put me onto that episode of Evil where they had like subliminal sound,
right?
Yeah, sound weapons where stuff you just can't hear, you know, normally with like the naked ear, but it's played in such a part of the frequency where it's like you can't hear it, but it's your mind.
I'm so scared I'm gonna start not being able to hear that stuff. I have like really lucky hearing, so I can hear a lot of these high pitched like noises. I've done a lot of those. Like if you go on YouTube and you do tests and it says sounds only people under 18 can hear, I can still hear some of those sounds, and I just know that won't last. And it's like, oh, that's so sad. Like to
I've
get
heard
it
that
even longer.
people tend to go deaf first in the range of frequencies that their most significant other's voice occupies, and so
Oh.
as like a defensive measure, you just can't even hear what the other person's saying.
Tune it
Just
out.
sorry, I can't.
That's hilarious.
I think that is true. If you look that up, that's like a scientific study.
Now I want chocolate milk. That's not fair.
That's not chocolate milk. That's
I know, but
chocolate
as a
milk.
Mormon, I'm gonna just pretend it's okay.
Jenkin.
Oh God, that has caffeine in it too, doesn't it?
Does caffeine have is cacao have caffeine? Cacao. It's not really that they're against.
Cacao is not chocolate.
There's 12.4 milligrams of caffeine in cacao. However, caffeine's not a problem, and you'll see a lot of them drinking Dr. Pepper and diet
Didn't I have
soda.
a beer with you last time I was in DC?
I can neither confirm nor deny whether or not we even smoked crack, bro. Like it was DC. Like we can't tell people what we did in DC.
Oh wait, I don't know what you were drinking. Sorry.
It's true. It could have been PCP. Like I don't know, angel
Yeah.
dust, something crazy.
Was it a gallon of PCP?
I can't confirm or deny. It was Washington
whole
DC.
gallon.
This is the third
don't
night in a
watch,
row that we've made Trevor Moore references. I just want to say it. His spirit is like circling us, and that's good.
Yo,
Live on.
Speaking
Rest
of
in
famous
peace, man.
people, how do you guys feel about all the heat that Terrence Howard has been getting lately?
Terryology. No one's. There's no room.
Terryology.
There's no room at the top for anyone but me.
Context, audience.
There's no room at the
Yeah.
top for anyone else but me. I think is all you
I'm
need to know.
sitting here
about.
going, it's really cool that you guys think it's interesting now that you like put the periodic table in an interesting shape. But when I was like 12, I was really interested in it
Wait,
too, and I
wait,
learned
wait,
the
scroll
whole
up.
base
That
way
was-
to do it.
All right,
Show that
Jeff,
again.
Then
What
you
did
can
that
come and
mean?
talk
Yoga-
about the other way.
yoga.
But
That's
if you
messed.
never were interested in academics and science and say, I listened to the podcast 4 times, like read a fucking textbook and then try to talk or think.
Right.
Like, if it's really interesting,
Yoga, that's
But
messed up, but
otherwise,
that's a damn good impression of me. I'll admit it. That's
Did
exactly-
that say 1 times 1 equals 2? Did that headline just say 1 times 1 equals 2?
1 times 1 equals 2, dog. Did
dude,
you
I
not?
have friends walking around telling
Did you
me
not
this,
know
and I
about
go,
Terryology, bro?
okay, buddy. Okay,
Bro,
yeah, no, you're right. No, yeah,
Alright,
1 times 1 is
look,
2, guys. Okay.
Let me start with the con. Let me start with the cons. No, let's go. Let's do a prequel. Let's go do Blaintology, because if you didn't
I
watch
know
this,
about Blaintology.
if you didn't watch the South Park about Blaintology, you don't understand. Like, this is what South Park is for. South Park's
I
a
have
very
a copy of that episode because they don't play it on South Park Studios anymore.
yeah, because it has Muhammad in it. It's one of the most important. That and the Super Best Friends. It's a super important
They
episode.
also, I mean, not for nothing, it has Muhammad in it, and they made him a jinn. Like that's a little bit offensive.
To who? Not me. I'm just saying. I liked it.
I mean,
But-
not for nothing. I
Peace
kind
be
of like
upon
I'm
him.
aware of like the Islamic ideas. So,
Oh
like, I
my
can see
god!
why.
And now we get canceled. Thank you for that.
I don't think that. I think that honestly,
And
this
now we
represents-
get canceled. And
represents the very
now we
beginning
get
of-
canceled. Look at this is Joseph Smith and Muhammad. And
Yo,
now-
is that Shiva or who's the guy? Yeah, who's
That's
that blue
Vishnu.
dude?
that's Vishnu?
Oh, Vishnu. Okay.
Yeah, there's all these avatars of Vishnu, and then Confucius for some reason. I
That's
feel
dope.
like Confucius is cool, actually. I'm kind of down. But
Nah,
Joseph
he's probably a
Smith,
fucking dick, to be honest.
the fact that
I
Joseph
I
Smith
realized
is
that like when
They
when this first happened, this was like the beginning of all like the downfall of American culture, the South Park thing, because that was like when it was still surprising that people threatening
Park was a
violence
Trojan
against
horse.
the company to take jokes down. That wasn't like, if you remember like the whole late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was pretty much having a competition of like who can be the most offensive
Yeah.
on national television.
Yeah.
That was literally going on.
It felt like an obligation to me. As a
Growing
kid.
up, there was
It felt
a
like it
television
was my
show
job.
called "You Can't Do That on Television."
Right.
That was pretty
It was the basis of the
fucking
show.
vanilla as far as everything went.
It felt like it
My
was
coffee
my
is vanilla.
it felt like my constitutional obligation to test and to carry the flag forward further for freedom of speech, for freedom of expression. That was the vibe that it was up until at least about September 11th, 2001.
And it was
Maybe
literally right. The South Park episode was when they put that like grocery store divider down on the fucking conveyor belt, saying, "Oh, here's where it stops." And it's like, "Oh, wait a second, there's a line."
Yeah, we were trying
And
to.
everybody, half of America's been trying to like support that line, and the other half of America's been trying to like say, "No, there isn't. And we can't can't allow this because that line's going
to
move
save
closer
face.
and
I don't
closer."
want to talk shit on Terrence Howard as a human. I think he.
Who
as a
is Terrence
human
Howard?
Amazing.
I actually only
Things
want
he's
to
saying
talk.
are great, but if you want a real answer to some of the things, okay, numbers, multiply them, you can't multiply objects. You can multiply numbers, but 2 apples times 2 apples doesn't mean anything. And just like, so 1 times 1 equals 2 is like a fun thing to talk about if you're interested in getting into the semantics to work out why what he's saying is like offensive to your sensibilities. But no, 1 times 1, and he then immediately brings it into objects. But then again, when you multiply by a fraction, so yeah, go ahead. No.
1 is an object, though. Like you can multiply so long as you define how the objects interact.
You can argue that yes, one of them is objects and the other one is that's another. Yeah.
There's a couple issues with Terryology before we get to that. I just wanted to start with like
I want an intro on Terrence Howard.
Well, the name sucks, man.
I want red herrings and logical fallacies and attacks on character first before we get him out of the way. But basically, he's an actor and he's a popularist. Okay, like Einstein. Einstein also picked up on a lot of really great theories, and he worked in a patent office, and he had his girlfriend explain to him what the patents were about. And so Einstein is not the most brilliant man in history, but people who say Einstein's the stupidest man in history are like the same kind of people who say George Bush is the stupidest man in history. It's not accurate, right? Just because
had a lot of help.
It's like saying Elon Musk is the stupidest man in history. It's not accurate. Not to say he's
so brilliant. Einstein chose to take the role in the patent clerk's office.
Yeah.
The guy who retired.
Clever guy.
Retired because he felt like everything that was important that had been invented was already documented in the books.
And
so he basically gave up his seat, like, I've done my job here. And Einstein was like, well, I'll sit in that seat at least for the time being and occupy that space.
Learn how to use this
entertaining the new ideas.
Apply it more. But there's major gaps in Einstein because he wasn't raised by Jesuits. He doesn't know all of the things he needs to know. He's not even a Kabbalist on the highest level necessary to understand.
He's not a mystic.
He's not a mystic, and this is a problem. He's actually what Einstein was, and then Terry's doing this too. Einstein, as a popularist, is looking for an algorithm breaker. So it's like, if I can say like something that's so oppositional that people can't even stand anymore because they're just like, what? The world's round? It's flat? It's what? It's like, then I can. So what he did was he took Lemaire's theory that was, the MC squared is equal to energy, and he flipped it around, and then he said, there's no God, because that's the main thing to differentiate it. So look, I've got this
I don't think he ever said that, actually.
Well, he did. He took it back. So what he did say was, he's like, I believe in the God that Spinoza believes in, that doesn't like answer prayers and maneuver. The same thing that Elon Musk said recently. But he said that because he didn't want to upset the rabbi. Really, what he was trying to do was he was trying to prove that E equals MC squared could work without the Big Bang creation cosmogony myth. There could just be, perpetual infinite energy. Energy becomes matter. And the formula never worked. And sometime in the 50s, he finally admits that and says, I'm sorry, I could never prove that. And we're going to go back to using Lemaire's
MC square is well documented as it's just what happens when matter transmutes to energy.
It's not his idea. See, it started out with
no,
Lemaire's, right?
It's Pythagoras' idea, actually.
Well,
it's literally just the Pythagorean theorem in 4 dimensions.
Pythagoras
E
was
equals
definitely
MC
a
squared is
mystic.
ridiculously simple. It just tells you what happens.
See, now there's an exciting take.
True,
that's a legitimate thing to say. And then whether or not you can talk about all the things Pythagoras also taught about, and then it's not a conversation about one specific fact and is it true or not, or
right.
Like if you've ever done a collision algorithm in a video game, you've got E equals MC squared down pat, especially if you've gone from a 2-dimensional game to a 3-dimensional game, because then you know how to move from 3 dimensions to 4 dimensions real fucking easy.
Dude,
Sean is really good with nuance. That's one thing I've recognized about his takes on things.
There's a game.
If you think about it, right, everything's moving through time and space at the speed called c, right? If you start moving through space at a given speed, you're now moving through space-time at an angle. You're no longer moving at a straight line through time. If you're moving at an angle, if you're moving at any angle through, if you're moving at all in space, you're not moving in a straight line through time. So now your trajectory through space-time is angled, right? So if you take the length of that angle and you figure out sort of that like hypotenuse and you figure out how long it is, right, you're going to experience that much more time than someone who just stayed still because you were moving. So because time was slower for you. So sorry, experience more time or less time. It's hard to express when you're experiencing more or less, but yeah, that's essentially what the Lorentz contraction is, and that's the basis of special relativity. So if you understand Pythagorean theorem, you understand special relativity. General
How it allows
relativity
you to go forward in
general
time, but it does not allow you to go backwards in time unless you insert some other
It
paradigm
lets you.
or framework.
You're always moving forward in time at normal speed. You can slow that rate.
Yes,
You
relative
can't-
to someone
You
else.
can't
and
reverse it. It's like
conversely.
if something's moving at the speed of light, right? You can't slow it down because that would take an infinite amount of energy. If it's moving
Yes.
at not the speed of light, you can't speed it up to the speed of light because that would take an infinite amount
But
of
I
energy.
think, see,
right?
here's where we missed the very fundamental premise
So
of
you
what.
could, no, what I'm saying
Terrence-
is if you're
Terrence was
moving in a
saying,
given
though, is that
direction,
he-
you're moving
is
in a
that
given
he was a
direction
turd.
based on at sea, the trajectory of reversal is unavailable to you because you can't turn around. You can't reverse your direction because
Yes,
you're
but
moving
look at him again. He's 53 years old, and he said when he was 13 years ago, his woman
He was
found him and
building on the
started to
works of
polish the
Maxwell
turd
and
that was
Lawrence.
his
He was
soul.
not inventing anything.
One at a
He was
time.
literally just finishing what Maxwell and Lawrence started. It was it.
So
I'm saying
anyway,
he
Terryology.
showed a picture of himself when he was 260 some odd pounds or something to Joe, and then he said he's sitting there fit and trim. So regardless of whether he believes in fairies or
Oh, this
UFOs or
guy.
dinosaurs or anything, I
The
think
point
there's
is
something to be
Einstein
said
was an
for his
actor.
vitality.
And being an actor, you need a hot take, okay? And so now we've got a new actor with a hot take, and he's got a lot of things he's saying that are actually pretty good, like the Terryology periodic table is not something I'm against. Like
It's a spiral.
Yeah, like this is just where's the Terryology?
There's been spiral periodic tables before.
Yeah,
It's
of
not-
course.
Yeah, that's what he said.
The
That's
model
all
he presented was published in 1920, and
Right.
no, it's an alternative
friend.
model. It's better for visualizing it as an adult, but when you're a child trying to pick up the mathematical and other concepts that are contained within the periodic table, because
There's nothing wrong with the periodic
No,
table.
because if you're actually a
contains
chemist
information
and you're
about the
looking for a
average
given
amount to be
element with a certain
isotope
property,
and
the spiral
One
is
at
not
a
going to help
time.
you with that. You want to look at the table and say, okay, I want to go this far over and find something that will connect with that. And then I need something with this much atomic mass, and you start going down.
Right. That's the issue. I think a lot of people, when they hear him, they're wooed because they don't know anything about anything. So they're very
Like
confused. when
every
they hear
single
about-
representation of reality, whether it be a orthogonal representation like this or a spiral representation, has its benefits and its drawbacks for whoever's using that representation of reality. You know, if you're doing chemistry, I'm sure you're
They're
probably
both
going to want a
correct.
tabular representation of the elements. If you're doing art, or maybe there is some sort of discipline that a curled table would lend
Well, the
itself
thing is,
to.
I've spent literally
not the same
hundreds of
what I'm
hours
thinking
with the
of.
periodic table. Like, I don't know if because I didn't want to fail chemistry, and I did it once in high school at a college level, and then by the time I got to college and took chemistry, I literally didn't go to a single class. I only went to labs and tests, and I still got like a B because it was stuff that I had done 4 years previous and had kind of continued using as I was studying biology. I didn't go full organic chemistry. I don't know if anyone here did.
Organic
heard that.
chemistry, I haven't. I've looked into it. I haven't actually.
Orgo,
formally
it's like
studied it.
it's like law school basically for pre-med, and
But everything
there's a
is
lot of
just carbon,
memorization.
nitrogen, and oxygen. It's literally like anything else is weird. It's like everything else is pretty much a metal in that discipline.
I like that guy, whoever that guy is.
Right. Thank you. I think the periodic table is underrated. I don't
It's
think
called
there's-
dimensional analysis. Was one of my favorite things. It's how to do 4 pages of math. It's just
I don't think there's anything
converting
wrong
moles
with the
to-
periodic table for the exact reason that Sean said, that understanding how atomic mass and weights work helps you understand that these elements aren't really that different. And now with AI, we've just broken down, I think, about half of the table into how they construct by subatomic particles, which is interesting because it's like the building blocks, like amino acids of how atomic mass lands together, how football plays end up. If you're, the most probable way that this is going to happen. And we didn't know that. And we kind of had ideas, but it took literally 6 months with AI after 100 years of everyone trying for lifetimes. We have PhDs that have never been completed, all these failed atomic mass structures.
Quantum electrodynamics solved chemistry entirely. So you can pretty much construct any trivial molecule so long as it's available, like with the energy.
This
station.
is why Terry's getting play, because he's talking about wave theory and saying that if we can understand exactly how there's quantum entanglement with electron, that it's really just a singular electron. But this is the thing. This is stuff that we're all talking about. It's great, probably because he's popularizing it.
Is it philosophy or is it science he's trying to get on?
It's
Because
science
like
communication.
where it's like if you're doing numerology, right, and you're
Science
taking it really
communication is all
seriously, and you're
industry.
actually like buying lotto tickets based on your numerology sessions, then like you're a little that's a little too much. Even God forbid you're actually running your life based on.
Well, he
your
also has a
numerology. If you do it and you just get poetry out of it, and it's just like an interesting flowery description of what your day was like.
but
that's
he's also
another
got like
story.
a spiritual shtick to his whole thing, right? Like he's got like
That's
that
what I'm
kind of
saying.
dimension
Like, is
too.
this like a lifestyle, or is he actually trying to make
Well,
scientific
I
predictions?
mean, when you wear your white hood underneath your earphones like that, it feels like you're trying to do something occult, whether you are doing it or not.
Oh yeah, he's leaning into that. It's seeped itself into modern fashion, whether we realize it or not. You know.
Yeah.
he looks like that cat. that Bugs
Again,
Bunny fucked up.
would you rather only be able to hear someone talk the way he talks about the things he's interested in when they're talking about Jesus or about the Vedas, and they're reciting the Upanishads to you, or they're telling you stories about Mother Goose, and so it's confusing to a lot of people because they can't talk about anything at length for 30 minutes. And I feel like if we're here online, we have a voice, we have an opinion, we have interests that are niche, and we're kind of like willing to nerd out about certain things. And I think what he represents in the culture right now, especially not being Neil deGrasse Tyson and or any other white guy or Michio Kaku as a science communicator, is that I think what was said before is like, well, if I knew how cool math was, like, I wouldn't have been so mean about it when I was in like 7th or 8th grade to my math teacher, because maybe there are some kind of interesting.
Seriously though, can we comment on that for a second? Like the way they
Please.
teach math to kids, at least in New York, is fucking atrocious.
Sadistic.
Like there's some real beauty in math, and like they don't. It's like if they brought you into art class and taught you how to paint a fucking fence, it's not proper. Like if they taught you how to draw that shit in math class and like how to actually construct that with like some like a square and compass on your paper, I'm sure you'd be a lot more thrilled about it. And then if they taught you how like, oh yeah, this is actually a form of calculus or a form of algebra, I should say, and how to map things out of it, that would be pretty goddamn cool. But they don't do that. They just sit there and teach you fucking quadratic equation.
Well, if the best parenting technique is to sit your child in front of geometric blocks and other mathematical puzzles from age 8 to 11 and give them lots of like acid or mushrooms or something, like no one's ever really allowed to say that out loud, but the geniuses out there, instead of learning to play the violin, something is allowing them to, and again, synesthesia, which I believe is a real thing and multifaceted. And
honestly, the people that
acid for that, but yeah,
I'm just saying that the secrets, that was a bad for instance, because giving drugs to children is not something to joke about. But
no, I think from what I've
I
experienced,
was just saying in general, not just
the
not
people
just
that
kids.
actually like the people that actually apply it the most happen to be like blue collar people, like when they're like welders or like when they're craftsmen, like carpenters or whatever. I think those like, or for example, machinists, I think they're like so badass. I've always liked the idea of just putting a brick of metal on a lathe and like carving it in like specific shapes to make components.
Real.
Yeah, and that goes together to create like hardware, and I really
In a
like
way,
that
that's
shit.
synesthesia as well. Like you're taking one like thought and you're applying it to a block of inert matter, and then making people feel something when they look at it.
It's almost like
That's
transmutation.
even better
yeah.
than drugs, honestly. Like even Albert Hoffman said that he got tired of the acid and just would rather actually generate that experience through real life rather than
studying the difference
it's
between
probably
AC and
anachronistic
DC
to describe
electricity
it this
should
way,
make
but
you. It should make
it's
you
like
trip
dropping acid is like putting an AI filter on your brain. It's like, okay, cool. It's generating a bunch of awesome patterns. Wow. Are you actually getting something philosophically useful that you couldn't have otherwise achieved? Like that's the important part. That you
well, and again,
couldn't have
if the
otherwise
product of
achieved,
the
because
outcome of
doing
your
acid is a
babbling
little
with yourself and your
irresponsible, I think we have
colleagues
to
is that
admit.
you're distinguishing between AC and DC current, then no, there's definitely something happening with the communication, and it might be significant to nobody but like 8 people in the world. But you're distinguishing the weak force from the strong force, and again, it's not even esoteric; it's just so siloed and specific. But when Neil deGrasse Tyson, the head of a planetarium, and someone asked him, so when you like fly towards Jupiter, is it all gas? Like, is there a surface? And he goes, yeah. You just like fly right into it and you'd keep going. When the real answer is there's liquid hydrogen and potentially a solid hydrogen core. And even that, for when he's responsible as a science communicator just for like the planetarium stuff and the kind of down the middle of the road answers, the people that we have right now are failing us to some extent. And we saw what happened during the pandemic when people have people who are too certain of anything that they know. But I was going to ask you guys, so Nikola Tesla, anyone heard of him? Yeah, the whole AC-DC thing? Because the battle between Edison And Tesla is a lot more compelling. I wrote like a 15-page report and taught my 80-year-old history teacher something about this in high school. But
Gotta
so you
plug
have
that shit.
thinker and a tinkerer. You have Tesla, which is a thinker, and he'd sit there and kind of design the whole thing and then go into the machine shop and without drawing anything, lay out a whole bunch of pieces and assemble something no one had ever really seen before, or at least demonstrated in public or shared with the world. And whereas Edison was famous for saying 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. And it was this brute force plug and chug, guess and check method, which is useful. It's fun in math. You have to abandon plug and chug because you kind of learn to overcome that by understanding the formulas. But then there are certain areas of even calculus where you kind of have to just like throw numbers into the equation and then let it get closer through a series of
Calculus
progressive
isn't real
analysis.
math.
But so AC/DC, you have Tesla, Edison, you have thinker, tinkerer, and then you have 99% inspiration, 1% perspiration was Tesla's method. Because to invent the light bulb, famously, they tried thousands and thousands of filaments, and eventually they came upon some like wormwood, cotton hybrid wrapped in something, and that where they made a light bulb where it would last for about a year or two.
Well, you know what I found out was actually what that was really cool that I never knew. I found out that back in the old days, to vacuum seal like a light bulb or a vacuum tube, like they had to basically put the glass tube attached to another tube vertically that you would pour mercury down because the passing of mercury would suck the air out. And then as it passes, that's when you clip it. Well, it's like completely dead inside. And that's how you get a vacuum sealed like light bulb or tube or
Yeah, you
whatever.
put one column in the other, and you just pull it
Yeah.
up, and it's sealed on the top, and it's like one of the barometers. It pulls down, and it has. The
I never knew that.
vacuum
I was like,
plate.
that's fucking awesome. I was
And
like,
what's
because I never
interesting is, right, because as a scientist, as a child, you're going, what is in that space? Because if you take a cup
Yeah.
or a tube of mercury and you turn it over quickly, and then it drops, and that's a barometer.
There's no
And
bubble.
it depends actually on how
Yeah.
much pressure is pushing down around on the outside of the dish, and so there's mercury vapor in that space, and it's very, very dilute. It's based on the
Yeah.
surface
Yeah,
tension
it's
and
anemic.
the
it's
polar.
fucking cool.
But so that mercury vapor also is useful when it's in a vacuum tube because if it's in certain electric fields, it glows.
Yeah.
And so the mercury vapor.
Oh yeah,
arc
that's how
lamps
they
are-
did the early neon lights, right? Or neon
Yeah, and
style.
there's still
Yeah.
I think it's in Australia. There's a subway system, a little like old trolley system. It's called a mercury arc rectifier. I don't know if Andreas can pull up a picture of a mercury arc rectifier. It's a giant teardrop upside down shape piece of glass with things coming off of it at like I guess radially symmetric things, and it glows and it spits fire and it looks like a ghost in the dark. But that's
Looks like a big
Mercury
bong.
makes
in
me
order to
sad.
pump currency.
This
That's
is the best
now
bong you
replaced by
could ever
solid state
use.
technology. But that was the first way we figured out how to do it. Before we figured out how to do it with resistors and microchips, was somehow
looks
that
awesome.
thing was involved in running
I
the
don't want to
electricity.
give
Can I
anybody
just
any
say
ideas.
that
But do they have
It's
like
amazing and
ionic charge?
wonderful.
Sorry.
It's amazing and wonderful that we have, as a society and a species, progressed beyond the need to use mercury, at least in day-to-day
Yeah.
activities.
That's
what if
cool.
Mercury
pretty
is
fucking
what if
cool.
what if Mercury is awesome and
What if it tastes like bananas?
yeah, what if we're being lied to? I'm not
It's like MSG, man. You got to put that shit on everything. It's like Frank's Red
That
Hot.
shit is so good. I love
You
MSG.
broke a thermometer on my hands.
The first M is for Mercury. You didn't
Brought
know
to you
that.
by mineral water.
Actually, it's
And
funny
Frank's Red
because
Hot.
elemental mercury is probably the least dangerous type. It's when it's already combined into an organic molecule, like before it touches you. That's when it's fucking dangerous as shit.
What if you ionize your bong so that it ionizes the chamber? Or is anyone doing that?
I
Is that
feel
some-
like putting free
Tell that
radicals
for
in
a
anything
That
is a
would be
bad
solid,
idea.
dude. Someone's
Like,
got to make one of those into a bong for sure.
yeah, dude, and just turn it on while you're using it. That seems like
And
somebody.
to quote Chris
Bong's
Farley,
already
when
cold
someone
enough
asked
cancer,
him,
you
it
don't
was
need
like,
ions.
"You seem like the kind of person who used to eat lead paint chips as a kid," and he goes, "Ha ha ha! Why?"
No, that's got to be like a better than a bong. It's got to be a dab rig or something.
Yeah,
That's some
yeah.
crazy, insane shit.
I was
It
looking-
creates a vacuum in your lungs before you
Oh,
inhale, so you
someone
don't have
said-
to exhale first.
Best
Kurt-
gravity bong ever.
Kurt said something earlier about soul food. Yeah, that's how I'm doing it. The orbital. So he said that we don't have a lot of things left of like history that we can hold on to. And on one hand, that's super true. You know, I do my whole Tartaria shtick where we talk about how most countries, even in Europe, are younger than the United States. So most people aren't really associated with their old European heritage or their old African heritage, like these countries in Africa.
Wait.
Or these countries.
what does heritage have to do with whatever the fuck government people were signing permits for
Depends.
100, 200, 300 years
Good,
ago?
good question. I would say it depends, and usually depends on how much that government destroys all of the infrastructure, libraries, museums, history, school books, reinstitutes a new indoctrination system, or doesn't. And in this particular case, the 20th century is more of the former than the latter. You know,
I was reading about my family history and where we came from in a specific place in Europe, and one of the things that I found was like an ancient, like not ancient, sorry, like early middle Renaissance law book of the county that has my mother's maiden name as the, like it's the name of the fucking county.
legit. Which county?
And I'm just looking at it, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Why the fuck am I named after, or why the fuck is my mom's family named after a municipality? That's weird.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Think what happened at Ellis Island.
know why, right?
People's
Yeah.
professions ended up in the wrong
Yeah.
column. It ended up as their last name, and because
I also think it's normal to
Like,
be
these
named after
people
where you're
were like,
from.
like the books were, the laws were like, yeah, when you walk your dog, you know, you have to do it on the side of the road so that there's not like shit in the path, the walking path and stuff.
and on
And
Thursdays,
it's like,
donkeys
wow,
cannot
500 years
cross the
ago, they were
road,
still worried
you know?
about this dog shit on the fucking road, and this is the institution that my fucking family's named after. Like the people who fucking regulated the dog shit. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
Most of us
that's what
don't know the
government
names
does.
of
They
our great
regulate dog
grandfathers.
shit.
Does anyone in here know the first name of their of any of their great grandfathers?
Yeah,
I
don't.
know pretty far back
I do
actually. My
not.
family. I go
I
know
all the way
all of
back to
them,
the
yeah.
Virgin Maras, who came here in like 1650.
yeah. I got this like weird ancestry app that the Mormons run that like goes back my family all the way to Jesus. It's pretty sweet.
Is that like the ancestry app they have in Norway to prevent you from fucking your cousin?
No, that's not like that.
They actually have an app for that in Norway.
It's actually like the opposite of that. It's like to find people that are related to Jesus. Probably, I feel like.
Oh
there's-
God, keep it
yeah.
all in the family, huh?
You got to be careful with those. Yeah, but my point was, Kurt, that we do have records of history, and I think about Thanksgiving dinner, like soul food, for instance, right? So when we eat things like, did you know that like the stuffed peppers, the like mashed like yuccum or cassava or now potato, that the whole meal, like fried chicken, everything else like that.
Wow,
with
you
the-
do Thanksgiving so different.
Well, okay, it's because I'm black, but like if you eat those things, it's because he's muted. Stefan, you're muted. I like it though. It's cool if you're muted. But yeah, if you eat those things, it's probably because you can unmute if you were trying to.
Yo, Andreas, do you
Have
like Mitt,
control over that.
you ever heard of Mitt Romney?
I have heard of
Who?
Mitt Romney.
How do you feel about Mitt Romney?
Vampire, like the rest of the government, probably.
I mean, I don't know that much about him. I just know
So,
Wikipedia was worth a shit.
So there's a cool show called Cult, Daughters of the Cult.
He's not only a vampire, he's a fucking Twilight vampire.
Yeah,
Okay.
which Twilight was written by a Mormon girl, so there's something to it. But
Shit.
Well, Twilight was clearly very potent. It was packed with some magical shit. All right, like
Yeah.
that affected people on a visceral level. Like seriously.
True.
My cousin dragged me to that because she didn't even care about the movie. She just wanted me to meet her friends for some reason. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, cool.
It was like
And I
what
was
it's
like,
like the
wow.
magic Taylor Swift has. You know, it's like this weird white people magic. You know.
I watched it and I hated the movie, but when I heard about Robert Pattinson saying I fucking hated the character so much, I played it like a guy I fucking hated. I was like, yes. All right. I appreciate you as an actor now because your opinion is correct.
Fucking
Well, I don't
Twilight.
know if I really had like a good like place to go with the soul food still exists and that we're like tied to culture in the weirdest ways because the things that like for instance, there are words that belong to the Picts and the Celts that are still in English, but they're for very specific cooking instruments in the kitchen, you know? So they're like
Yeah.
things that the
Like
women
what?
I forget. I could look it up though.
Is it words that we use in America now?
I don't know if it's words that we use in America
Well,
now.
I mean, to be honest, what's really interesting about America as a culture and the language we speak is our language is Germanic, but the aesthetics of our bureaucracy is mostly Roman. Like all of our
No, it's
yeah, like if you go
Oh,
if you
the
go to, like
aesthetic, yeah.
yeah, the aesthetic, but it's all like Romanesque, you know, when it comes to the buildings
Broth.
and shit.
Broth.
When it comes
Weird
to
to me that
the word-
actually
the word-
we use a Romanesque aesthetic for our government buildings.
It's almost
because
as though the Phoenicians came along and found a culture called like Tartaria or whatever you want to call it that was speaking a language that was French, that was also German. Because there's a whole YouTube channel devoted to how English is just badly pronounced French words, and like a third of the vocab in if you're speaking in
So,
certain regions or
Bro-
dialects.
Yo, it's possible to speak English without any Roman
On
rooted
Clefted
words.
Beholding.
But so,
So-
in 1930, only 30% of the population in America was literate before the ballpoint pen was written. And so if we had all the 5 of us on here, Andreas included, and 2 of us could read, one of them simply to verify that the other person wasn't just completely lying about what it said on the page in whatever language it was I was claiming to read in. If 2 out of the 5, then we'd be beating the average. And everyone else would just be spectators to this. In the only place, if you did learn to read or write, you tend to do it would be at church, and to write your name or and sign something and to identify,
Well,
things
how
on a
useful was
grocery
reading
list.
and writing to the average person 500 years ago?
Probably a lot. Hold on. Broth and brisket both come from Picton Gaelic words. Brisk comes from the Gaelic word for cartilage, and broth is a Pict word for soup.
Also, let's remember the English
Riddle.
are Germanic people. The English.
Oh yeah, I was gonna
themselves are
say.
Germanic.
Wait a second. The American government might take its aesthetic cues from the Romans, but we
But-
do not take our government cues from the Romans. If you look
Nope.
around the world, there are governments like Spain, Italy, on most of South America where they have things like an inquisitory court system, where the judge is literally the prosecutor. He's the one picking through everything and then deciding whether or not you're guilty. There's
And
not
the
like another
Yeah.
guy sitting on the other side of you trying to explain why they should be allowed to throw you in a cell.
But do
The
you
judge
accept
is
that
just
the
sitting there
architecture?
figuring that shit out.
I
But
would
the-
also
but the
say
architecture-
England
The
was
common
like,
law, an English common law system, like in the United States, we don't do that.
Britain was torn down though, and it was the way Roman centurions worked, right? Is that they would read a note like from the like a monologue at the beginning of the day, at the end, the middle of the day, and the end of the day, from the emperor or from whomever was in charge of that region, the governor or the gubernatorial. So you had this kind of centralized fascistic idiom that made it so everyone was kind of informed on the same level. Which later you have newspaper boys kind of continue on that tradition of
And
shouting.
you're
One
talking
job.
about from the framework of medieval Europe, right?
Right, but medieval. No, I'm
Because
talking
the rest of the world was a little
I'm
more
talking from
advanced.
Roman. I'm talking from Romanized England. So
Yeah.
Britain,
Yeah.
Britain. The other word. So when we think of the word slave, it comes from Slavs, right? Because the Moorish enslaved the Slavic people. But another more common word actually is a Briton. A Briton means a slave in like actually a worse way. It's the worst kind of slave
A
because
prisoner, it means press gang.
Originally, they were
Yeah.
all pagan too, right? Like
pagan. So pagan's an interesting word because Corpus Christi just means the army of Christ. So if you're not a member of the army of Christ, you're a civilian. A civilian, pagan means civilian. So it's basically that you're not paying taxes. So it's in between.
Oh,
you're
I
not
thought it
paying
meant that you
taxes
believed
to
in the whole like pantheon and all that stuff.
It can, but really what it is you're not paying the mafia, which is where the mafia comes from.
Okay, so it's like an economic label more than anything.
Absolutely economic label for the Muslims. For the Christians, it's like they wanted to draft your kids. The Muslims did have janissaries. It was a way you could pay your mafia, was that you would actually have several of your sons become janissaries. But the Constantinian Catholics did worse, right? So like if you had kind of rebelled against the Catholics, they'd call you a pagan. And if you weren't, even at first it was like, if you're just not riding to Jerusalem, then you're a pagan. If you're not like part of our club, you're a pagan. So it got more and more important as more and more people were demanded to be part of that. But at first you've got Roman England and British Roman England. Like after you have North England conquered by the,
Which was also Egyptian, right? It was also Egyptian.
So the reason why we
Right?
think that, the reason why I believe
Or
that,
at least one of the 28 dynasties was.
the reason why I believe that's true, aside from the fact that Scottish people look kind of Persian to an extent, some Scottish people have dark hair, they have certain dark features. There's also Persian words in the Scottish Gaelic. There's also
it was not a monoculture.
bagpipes. It's not a monoculture, that's true, but bagpipes have spread because Highland bagpipes would be played from one from one Highlander to another Highlander. Where do bagpipes come from? They come from Botswana. So that's an interesting thing that the Romans would have brought bagpipes from Botswana because they were also drafting people in Africa. It meant that bagpipes could have made their way up through the Romans. But it also is interesting because they were tartan. Well, where do tartans come from? They also come from Botswana. So it's even weirder than the idea that Scottish people are Egyptian. It's that they might have been part of this Moorish Berber empire that extended even into East and West Africa, right? South of, but that makes sense from what we understand about the Sahara.
As Lauryn
being
Hill
border.
said, everything is everything. And it's like, yeah,
Yes, people
everywhere
probably
was
go on
everywhere.
vacation.
You know?
Thanks for letting
People
me
have been
have
going on vacation way longer in history than people think. Like, they just didn't come back for a couple of years back in the day because the fucking trip took like 6 months.
Why would you come back if you became the king of another land?
Well, and so when we talk about borrowing
true,
things
too.
from an older culture, there were the people that were traveling in boats and master craftsmen in making these massive timber flotilla rafts, and they were called pleasure yachts, that sort of thing, that would have indoor plumbing on these structures that would literally have stone churches on these giant floating barges. And they were designed so that when you got there, they could be taken apart like a set of Tinker Toys and reassembled into your winter cottage on the beach. And then when you migrated again, you would pick the season and you would disassemble your houses, or most of them, and either put it back in the ground in a kit with instructions for your like great grandkids if they're ever really in a pinch, that, oh, by the way, you don't need to like go cut down trees to make a little wigwam. There's like, here's all the resources, including the bricks, and to have prefab buildings that we assembled maybe here in the 1500s. But the journey of the buildings that began to be built here that resemble ancient Roman buildings, even in DC, et cetera, may have started their journey to the place that they ended up in the year 200. And they'd been slowly building a supply chain network, understanding
I don't know about that
for
for small cottages. There's definitely evidence of that. If you go to the Caribbean, you see all of these giant stone star forts. This is just one corner that's been kind of broken away, but you can see how big the stones are that are putting this together. And they're not from Bermuda. They're actually brought by boat. Right, so there are tons of examples of boat-driven stone
in the middle of 500,000 bricks that are a fort that's on a Caribbean island.
I mean, like, you're doing all this boating. You find an island that's pretty far away. It's like Minecraft. You're going to build your little structure to keep your chest safe, right? And that's where this is also why when people talk about islands with buried treasure,
Pirate treasure.
Yeah, it's like a Bigfoot or a Roswell thing. They tell you not to think about it because it sounds silly. Like, oh, you're a little kid looking for buried treasure. Well, realistically, there is still a lot of buried treasure because they were so worried in the Berber Wars when the United States started invading Morocco and all the countries that they'd previously allied with in order to become the United States, right? They started taking out all of these private citizens who had bought war bonds from the United States. A lot of
Doesn't all treasure start out buried?
No, not necessarily.
Like raw materials or gold and gems, you pick it out of the ground first.
Depends.
Probably a lot of natural stuff buried more than.
So, like, by the time most people showed up in California for the gold rush, they were blowing up mountains and doing ecological devastation by washing away the exploded mountain in order to silt the soil for gold powder.
There was like one deposit that they had like ran through in like less than 10 years, and people still kept going for like I think 40 fucking years.
There's still gold in California. It's just
Andreas, if there were a bunch of
meme deposit that kicked it all off was gone within like 5 or 8 years.
Oh yeah, almost immediately.
And then everything was pretty much like baseline levels that people were just memeing about. Because back then memes spread through fucking. They didn't even have Xerox machines. Jesus, they had what? Pressed newspapers. Holy shit.
But when it came to gold, you either went, you could go pan, and if you the strange thing is there seemed to be a lot of gold coming out of the hillside, but that may have been because explosives were used to detonate the landscape, and there were ancient burials there, and so the gold ended up essentially as powder.
6 recently discharged members of the Mormon battalion were at Sutter's Mill when the initial discovery of gold was made on January 24th, 1848. The Mormon battalion sent tons of dudes down to find as much gold as they could find, right, in California. And so the amount of people that ended up getting gold at the first few years, I mean, when you hear these stories, they do sound incredible. The idea that someone found a gold nugget larger than a Volkswagen, right, and that these are pure pieces of gold. But that's also led to because we do see like conspicuously pure gold. It leads to the idea that this is the remnants of already purified gold, maybe purified by a civilization in the past. So that also, I mean, it just makes it seem that much stranger that California has such pure gold. And there's a few other spots like that, like in Australia, there's a large reserve that's also in a place that people have speculated was, a fallout from a former civilization. Kurt, you looking good. What's up, bro? Do you like soul food? What did you think about that soul food thing? I thought that was cool.
So
let me get
yeah, exactly. No, nothing wrong with history, but no, I just don't think food is, in terms of like historical longevity, it doesn't have a whole lot of Like not a lot of it has survived. Like we have bread, but how old is bread? Yeah, how many centuries old is bread?
Dude, I just saw a video on bagels and how ancient Egyptians and Jews made bagels, right? And I saw a video on bread, like how they've been making bread for 2,000 or 3,000 years, pretty much like since the yeasting, right? And how people save yeast and spread them.
The yeasting.
Yeah, dude, yeast is key to it all, right? Like prison yeast. Yeah, bread's probably like 2,000 years old.
I heard a Rasta say, "Bread is dead, man."
I think
Right?
bread is about as old as agriculture.
But it is alive, though. Actually, that's
Well,
that's the kind of
There's
ironic
different
part.
kinds of bread, though, Sean. I'm talking about like yeasted risen bread. You think that bagels are probably 5,000-6,000 years old, and that yeasted risen bread's 2,000, 3,000, or do you go further with yeasted bread?
Leavened bread has to be at least 5,000 years old because they were talking about it in the early Jewish texts. Like it's
Okay.
one of the things that they can't eat on a certain day, right?
Yeah. So, but is it like a hot thing at that time? Like, is it just invented?
That's probably
old
literally
bread.
the reason society started. Honestly, is bread.
Yeah, bread's a good food because it's light. You could travel with it. You
It's
could
not a
move
good food
army-
at all. It's garbage. It just lets you make a lot of people in one area very
I
quickly.
mean, it could
Well,
move
there's
with
good bread.
armies. It
There's
could move with
good bread.
armies.
There's definitely good
Yeah.
bread. You could make bread with
it's like there's a chapter in Half-Life where you encounter enemies that are formerly humans that are now almost all of their organs have been removed and they run on entirely on sugar water almost because sugar
Okay, so no,
water
wait,
is
wait,
the
stop,
most
Sean. You went
effective way
to
deliver
dystopia.
energy to.
Please,
Sugar water
go
is
back
the
because what you said was great. You said something very specific. You said bread is a good way to do one thing, which is to make a whole lot of people in one place. And
Yeah,
but can you
it's-
name
it's
something
sugar
else
water.
in the universe that does actually allow that? Because it's a really interesting thing. And to say whether it's good or bad that there are a lot of people in a concentrated area at any one given time
Is
is
it chocolate
whether
milk?
historically or geographically is a totally separate issue. But no, what other things make humans multiply? Like it's like mana almost, or I don't know. It's interesting.
rice.
Bread's
Rice.
a beautiful food. Okay, let's just. I mean, it's not necessarily great,
Humans
but
are
it's
beautiful
beautiful.
creatures too.
I like
you know?
rice a lot.
We're not necessarily
we
great.
spit on ourselves a lot, but like, come on, give ourselves a little credit. Dude.
And
Yeah.
bread is pretty chill. Bread is a chill invention.
I think
Bread-
the universe
bread
would be a
is
little
actually
weaker
okay.
if we weren't here. Just be a little
Rice is a pretty big one. You know that the Africans had their own domesticated rice completely independently of the Asians that grows in a thick canopy without
Is it actually
soil.
rice? or
Yo,
is it
Andreas,
rice
do you think we should have bleached rice yet, or nah? Like we should leave it brown, or should we shuck it extra like that to make it white and stuff?
I
whole grain.
like whole grain things, but I think that if people want to eat white rice, sometimes it's probably okay. Like I'm more of a quinoa person. Like this is the thing. All right, first off, things I like. African rice, everyone hates it. I love it. I think it's really good. Wild
Why
rice,
do people hate it?
because they say it doesn't taste like Asian rice. Right? There's
Oh,
like
they want the
Probably
Asian
not
rice.
rice.
they want that Asian rice. This is like
Asian-
a
So
butter-
all you youngins, okay, I didn't learn the word quinoa until I was 24, and I considered myself a pretty cultured person. Actually,
Well,
like,
I
kind
tried
of-
really hard.
I
America
didn't, I
ate it.
didn't know how to
That's
read
kind
it.
of my
pronounce it.
fault. And Stefan, I'm sorry. What happened was, and
I'm just old, though.
I apologize for this. When I was like 11, I used to eat a lot of quinoa, and I told a couple of people, and the price went from like 11 cents a pound to like 15 cents a pound or 20 cents a pound. And I was like, I'm not telling another soul. I'll never speak about quinoa again. And then quinoa got to like
quinoa,
$2-3 a pound, and you had to just like write millet's number on the label at Whole Foods. Yeah, that's right. That's what
As
we
an
had.
adult, I read that off a menu and tried to order it and pronounced it like a. Yeah.
check out
I guess the
this.
darker the rice, the better. Like ideally, you want black
Yeah.
rice.
You want
or
that. You
pitch
want that
black
brand.
rice.
You want that.
I knew what McDonald's was though, bro, for sure.
So
I just didn't know what
African rice
quinoa was.
is super based, and I'm just gonna I'm doing all my product sponsoring right now. Teff flour, mineral water, Teff flour. I think Teff flour is underrated. So Teff is this grain that is like a pseudo berry from Africa. And again, like I shouldn't tell people because the price is going to go up. But you should just start growing because you can make. And so, like thinking about soul food. Where's my soul food picture? You can make injera, right? Injera is this injera is this Ethiopian bread where it's like this is where waffles.
I've had that. I
pancakes-
think you eat
yeah,
it with
waffles,
your hands.
pancakes,
It's
all the stuff.
spongy. It's very spongy.
Oh,
It's
that looks
exactly
awesome.
it's exactly like a pancake, but it has a little bit of yeast in it, and it's made out of teff flour, so it's highly proteinous. It's basically the quinoa of Africa, and then you can wrap anything in it. You can put some
It's an
grit.
aphrodisiac.
Oh, it's an aphrodisiac.
Let's be
I like
careful
it.
about calling plant foods protein, though, because there's barely even the highest protein plant-based foods are very, very, very anemic in protein.
Quinoa protein level, hemp protein
tough.
level. Yeah,
It's
like
gonna
I
be
don't know.
nothing.
I don't know, bro. I
Compared to
think 25% good hemp seeds
25% of what?
of your daily value. Look,
No,
hemp,
bullshit.
31 grams. What you need
In
31
in
grams.
100 grams of seeds, you get 31. So it's 31% protein. That means it's 70% something else. Now
Yeah,
look at
which is
beef.
which are omega oils. Like, so where's the
Bullshit. There's nowhere near that much oil in plants.
Yo, if you
Then they
really
would be able to have
if you
water
really
in them.
cared about this macro spreads, why not just eat like gorilla chow? Like it's available on Amazon, I'm
Bruh,
sure. You could just buy a
hemp-
bunch
I've
of it.
looked at
And
the
just-
macros on that
hemp
too.
seed has everything you need to survive. That's like one of the earliest historical records we have are monks that survived a drought and a famine because all they had were hemp seeds and they could eat them because there's protein, there's omega oils, it's a complete protein and a complete oil, fatty substance. Oh, same thing with quinoa. Quinoa is a complete protein as well. Right?
You will get rabid starvation if you eat nothing but plants.
Well, okay,
unless
then,
you're eating,
then-
avocados or like
Yeah, but
drinking
like then
extracted hexane oil.
do it. You know what I'm saying? Like eat
do you
some
think
avocados.
do you think it's possible to sustain without like red meat like pigs or cows and just on small
Hold on,
animals
hold
like
on.
chicken
And just
or
for the
fish?
viewers,
Look,
rabbit
gorillas are
starvation is
bigger
a
than
thing,
us,
but I
so
think
you
it's the
definitely get
opposite.
greens.
I think it's the opposite of because rabbit starvation means you only get protein and you don't get any fats, whereas from plants you can get fats.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's still
But
no,
it's
sorry.
just
Yeah, what's the
sweets.
average?
You
calories
get
in
fucking
I mean,
diet?
all
fat
I know,
off
all I know
peanuts.
is I know like
But if
a
you don't know
ton
what
of
rabbit
Indian
starvation
guys-
is, that I like the casual reference and the name drop, so to speak.
I know a
Right,
ton
yeah,
of-
rabbit starvation is
I know
too
a
much
ton-
protein, not enough.
I know a ton of
Not
Indian
too
people that have never
Right.
eaten meat in their entire lives, even during pregnancy, like moms that have like 10 kids, like some of my friends' moms. Like, I mean, super healthy, super intelligent, super tall, super strong. I mean, again, gorillas eat grass and eat leaves and are bigger than us. There's no reason.
Explain that. Yeah,
There's no reason to think that we
explain
have
that.
to be. No, I'm like not
We're
saying don't
yoked,
be
you
a
know?
carnivore. Like eat a carnivore diet if that's what you feel like. But it's not reasonable to presume that it's impossible to.
Yeah,
live
okay,
off.
but so if you look up giraffes, it says that they're vegetarians, just like fucking gorillas. Look at their teeth. Okay, when they want to eat food, they eat it. You know, it's like
They have what is it? A
Okay.
coelom
And
in the digestive
giraffes
system?
are known to eat the carcasses. They're scavengers, though. But giraffes will certainly eat a lot of meat if you let them. But no. Google it. They're
Can you imagine
vegetarian.
like the meme? I'm a vegetarian.
yeah. Does that look like a fucking vegetarian to you? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
just
it's
because nothing else
obviously an
gets
omnivore.
near it that it wants to eat would ever get close to that thing.
I
ever.
still think humans should be able to do photosynthesis. Like I'm not saying we should only sustain on sunlight and water, but it would be cool if we could.
I agree. I think I'm for it. I think that's one of the first transhumanist things that we should go for. Sean, do you have a problem with this? Kurt, do you have a problem with this? Steph, do you have a problem with this?
bold.
No, I think this is a universally good
creating an
idea.
agricultural system is pretty much the basis of making us a photosynthetic species rather than hunter-gatherers. We have like a structure dedicated to that. Just because it's not part of our bodies doesn't mean we haven't like fundamentally altered what it means to be human when we created agriculture.
Food is magnets. Good
Mhm.
point. Electric universe.
Or wait, maybe
Like-
we altered what it means to be an animal and we became human.
Kurt,
No, because there's other social
So
animals.
beautiful.
Ants have been farming way longer than humans have existed.
that
Yeah,
cat is just so
yeah.
it's adorable. Adorable cat. Adorable.
Because
the
we
ears
probably
on
had
that
pottery
fucking thing are
before
huge.
our agriculture. I think the cats invented pottery and they gave it to us as a gift. You know,
That makes sense. I believe it.
dude, cats definitely co-evolved with humans. I mean, there's no.
We're
That's
gonna solo
a story
Kurt
that must
until he
go
gets
way
to
back.
No,
Yeah, just
there's-
nowhere near
there-
as much as
there-
dogs did.
There's some
Like, cats
mythologies that
look
suggest
about what
dragons.
they look like in nature. Dogs don't.
They're suggested that like cats are like spliced with lizard DNA from like Atlantis days when Atlantis figured out how to make weird hybrids using genetic splicing.
That makes
This is
the most
why,
sense.
yeah, this is why we have always had such like a sacred relationship with cats because we basically, they're like well, they weren't meant to be created and we just made them. But this is all, I don't know if I wasn't there. Like I don't.
God
I don't
only
know, but
knows. It sounds cool though. I like it.
There
But
is there's
if
also
if that was a squirrel-sized cat, no, excuse me, a cat-sized squirrel that was just as like quick about what it was wanted to eat. Think about how ferocious a cat could be, and you let it sleep by your head, and it's got in each paw, front and back, it's got 5 daggers that each have like bacteria underneath
they're
their
apex
fingernails that can
predators.
give you cat scratch fever. Yeah.
If
Yeah,
it weighed
there's-
half as much as you did, it would eat you.
There's
That
also
would not be a rat.
mythologies. There's mythologies that suggest that dragons disappeared when house cats, like felines, started showing up. Because, like, apparently, the spirit of
Oh,
dragons
huge.
escaped
Yeah,
into
that's
cats.
huge.
I love that
Yeah.
one. That's a good one. For all that
Yeah.
and Zai. That's a good one there.
Yeah,
Kurt's
I like
gonna
that.
get his monologue in. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. All right, Kurt.
Okay.
About-
Well, what?
Just give the cat. Let the cat say something. Yeah, we'll just listen for a second. Yeah?
She's not good on the spot.
I mean, yeah.
No, I thought there was a question in there somewhere, but I think
I'll be
we've
right
gotten
back.
off. Okay.
Cobra, my
What-
man. I ain't got no fire.
Was it about cats? Anybody in the audience who was paying attention, I desperately wanted Kurt to answer a question. I had to wait for it, and it was just I was trying to be patient, and it was a bad idea probably.
Okay, what's the question?
Do you trust your cat farther than you can throw it?
Yeah.
I
Sure.
know that's the one object actually that. Hey, man, we were coming at.
Sean, what were we
bread
talking
makes
about
things
before?
Multiply.
Bread
You-
makes
if with cats, you can actually trust
Seeds?
them farther. You can than
Oh,
you can throw
okay.
them. Most things you can't.
Was it bread?
Yeah, something along that effect. Yeah.
Go for it. I'm gonna mute people so you can talk.
No, food. No, we were talking about food and transhumanism, but I was like, you know what? Instead of photosynthesis, we should all just have gills. You know, that should be our next.
That's what it was. It was photosynthesis. You madman.
Yeah.
You paid attention.
Gills. Oh my god, that there's absolutely no way we could.
But gills don't
You
make
have-
you.
The reason we don't have gills is because we have brains this large. You can't get that much oxygen out of water by pumping.
Well, hold on. Don't
just
ruin it. Don't
water
ruin
over-
his whole dream already. Like
I think. I
scientist.
think you're not a believer. That's just what I think.
What it is. You need squid Jesus in your life to give you gills, but gills don't photosynthesize. They don't give you energy. They just give you oxygen. Is that enough? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, then we could just eat a bunch of fish all day.
So you're chill with just swimming in the water. Like you don't need to like be.
Fishy.
No. You like eating, basically.
Precisely.
You don't want to take away eating like from yourself.
Precisely.
Or
You got the
talking.
idea.
Can humans really imagine a universe where they can't hear the sound of their own voice echoing between their own ears?
I don't know. I'll mute myself.
Only imagine.
Do you think you could control yourself if there was technology that allows you to create any food you want, like in Star Trek, that machine that that generates food, just prints food out for you out of thin air? Do you think you could control yourself, like knowing you could just make a parfait or whatever you want,
Yeah.
whenever you want?
Yeah, because I already feel that way. Like, have you ever gone to those Chinese all-you-can-eat buffets, which I lived off of for like years? What
I have Uber Eats. How is that different?
Uber Eats sucks. Are you kidding me? No, I'm talking
Uber
about.
Eats is the same- I could literally have anything I want, literally sitting in front of my doorstep
Dude,
in 20
what you do,
minutes.
It's so much.
That's an
simpler.
insane business model. I'm surprised like they make money. It's crazy.
Uber Eats costs $1 bazillion. Screw that. What you do is so simple. You go find out where the mafia's closest dock is, and you go to a coastal town. Then you find a warehouse district. You find a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet there. It doesn't take more than 3 steps. Then you go in, and there's just squid and lamb and goat and like charcuterie boards with every kind of there's a ham leg, just like how like the girls have their legs and they got the thumb up when they're hitchhiking. It's like that, but like 6 or 12 different pork legs just on a row, and they're all ready to slice. And there's just all you can eat of any kind of thing. There's parfait, and there's just chocolate fondue flowing everywhere. And you get in there in the morning and you stay there till 5, right? And you do that like once a week.
And do you know? Because you know what happens if you don't keep that kind of food ready and on sale and on display on your coasts is that a
Your
big
mafia
ship of
won't be
people
able to-
lands and then raids the city because they're starving. So it's like it's a good
Also,
idea in general.
as a
to keep
food
those
as
types
a
of things
food
at
business,
big
it's
ports,
insane.
right?
It's insane that you would pay a service like a middleman between you and and the customer. It's like why
I
would
hate
you do that?
people too, right? I'd
The
rather
customers paying somebody to go get the food for. I literally invented Uber Eats in like 2012 when Uber was
Like
just
Napster.
Uber. I was sitting there with this girl I was dating in my house and we were fucking drinking wine, and I said to her, "Do you want French food?" And she was like, "We're both drunk, we can't drive." And I'm like, "Watch this." And this is 2012, mind you. I fucking called an Uber from the French restaurant to my house where I was, and then when they accepted the ride, I called the driver. I was like, "Dude, they have an order sitting there for me that I paid for with my credit card for pickup. Can you just go in and grab the order for me, bring it to me, and I'll give you a nice tip when you get here?" And the guy was like, "What?" all right, sure. He was like weirded out by it because he was like a cab driver and he was like
God.
asking get delivered
Breaking
food.
new ground.
And like
Trust me,
the
cab
fucked up thing
drivers
is,
get
me and I
asked a
were sitting
lot
there
weirder
drinking.
questions than that.
We
yeah.
were trying to figure out a business to start, and I literally did that while we were sitting there with pens in our fucking hands, papers in front of us, and a bottle of wine on the table, like trying to figure out what kind of internet business. And I just like, oh yeah, let me order some French food for us so we don't have to go out. And yeah,
And it didn't
missed
write.
opportunity, I guess.
It's pretty good. I don't know. Try ordering like a hamburger from Uber or something. It's
The idea we came up with was a fucking scheduling system
All
for
these-
yoga teachers.
There's all these fees and all these things. I think it's not worth it. You go to a place where they don't even care if you're there because it's really they just need it there for when their mafia meetings happen.
Could this
And-
machine, this theoretical machine, that
No,
takes everything-
no. You go to a front restaurant, they're gonna look at you funny, like, why the fuck are you even eating here? We don't serve food. Like, are
Funnier
kidding?
you
I
look.
went to a cafe.
Funnier
But can you
front
order
cafe?
something from Planet
Funnier-
Zoltron though?
if you look
I
funny
understand you can
enough,
get French
they'll bring
food.
you
but
Yo,
can you get-
a good sign of like a front business is if there's like, oh, we don't take card, only cash. That's how you.
No,
that's
yeah,
one, like,
exactly. I
telltale
went to a
sign, yeah.
fucking a little front cafe for espresso,
And the food
fucking
could be
this, that, the other.
slamming. You're like, fuck.
Dude, no, like I go in there with a girl I was dating. It was like behind these fucking like places near the beach, like, by the docks, just like Andreas said. And I go in there and we sit down and they're like looking at us like, what the fuck do you want? And like, can you get some espresso and a little bit of gelato? And they're like, yeah, all right. And they pretty much fucking threw it at us and brought us the bill with the ice cream and the espresso. And we're sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, they really don't want us in here. And I'm like, all right, either they have a fucking meeting or they literally just don't know when the guy's going to walk in or some shit or what he's going to be carrying or saying. You know what I mean?
But so the original premise of the
other places
question
you don't
here,
want to eat out.
the question here was about a machine that could make anything, and would it be good for you if you had it, and what would you eat maybe? But so now the one question is, could it make intoxicants and of various qualities or consistency?
It would have like a chat GP lock on it. Chat GPT lock. You'd have to like write like if you were writing a novel about a character who was doing this, you have to use a fucking prompt engineer.
But it's kind of triggering because I'm
I'm
addicted to both oxygen and sugar, and like I can't really live without. But whenever I go without either of those two things, I just really start, I guess, like jonesing or something. You know?
switch your
So,
body to
like,
burning oil, and you'll feel
I think
a lot
having a
better.
machine that could make anything like that would be really dangerous and bad. You know.
Sure, listen.
humans
All
are
right,
like the
here's the
carbon
trick,
that we
right?
need to
Nah, it would be
eliminate.
good.
switch
It would
your
be a
body-
force of
you-
good. We
You
know it'd be
switch your
good.
body from burning sugar to burning oil because when you eat too much carbs and sugar, your body's going to absorb all of it because it's water soluble. If you eat too much fat calories, your body's just going to let them all come out the other end. They're not going to sit. So, yeah, just switch off of that and you'll have no fucking problem because, like, yeah, sugar, being addicted
What
to
about
sugar is a real
oxygen,
hard
dude?
position to be in.
Every time,
that's
every day I wake up and I tell myself, today's the day. I don't need oxygen, and every
What's
day I
one
fail
lower on the
myself. I let
periodic
myself
table?
down.
What's like not echo oxygen? What's the opposite of that?
You got to buy clean oxygen.
It's
Certain
silicon,
brands will
maybe
have
is the
better
one below it
oxygen.
on the replacement. scale.
No, it's sulfur. Yeah, you could just breathe sulfur gas. That'll.
Well, you should look at Terry's
Without-
periodic
for you.
table and see what. I was looking about Hoover Dam because what's his name? You know, Bright Insight,
Hoover?
Jimmy Corsetti. He's put up this. He's got this like new like thought that he feels is super important. Let me go do it. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. Actually, that sounded more jerky than I meant. But he put this thought down. He's where's it at? Imagine.
I
Where's
love
thought?
thoughts.
Okay, thoughts are good.
Is that what we call these now?
pro-
Thoughts
I'm
on
pro
X?
I
In
call him.
Boston, jerky is friendly. What do you mean?
I like
That's
to say
the
I
jerky
like
boys.
I like to say exting. He's exted a thought. Like sometimes we ext each other. Thousands of years from now, people will come across the Hoover Dam and say it was a temple. They'll ridicule those who suggest it was a lost technology. My response, bro, it is a temple. Are you kidding me? It's weird because he picked all the worst shots of it. He's like, look at all the technological stuff. But what about like the actual temple part? Like if you go to the Hoover Dam, what is this guy? What's his deal, bruh? Like look at it. Look at this like neo.
Yeah, I think historians are
Artistic-
weird about things the way they interpret it. Like
it's clearly a
there
temple.
were historians who thought that the brazen
Can I see the
bull
big shots?
in
The
Roman
outside
mythology was
shots?
real, and that was only ever documented by a satirist. So I always take historians with a grain of salt because they're. I really think that when historians find
Take him with a
fucking
grain of
Marvel
MSG.
movies when they find Marvel movies in 1,000 years, they're gonna think that those were gods that we worshipped.
They are though. A lot of kids do.
In a way, yeah, but
Another
like
valid
not in the
point.
sense
It's
that
very
if you
valid.
said that to somebody, like, yeah, these are the gods these people worship, that they would interpret that a little differently than like, oh yeah, these are the characters.
See, what
that
I
they
think
were
is funny
obsessed
is sometimes
with.
sometimes
Their
if you're
zeitgeist.
too close to something, you can't see your own nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's funny when people talk about it. They're like 20 years ago, 100 years ago, maybe 60 years ago. If you had gone into the American home after a nuclear blast, if aliens had landed here and seen it, they would have seen that we had this television in the middle, this black monolith, this weird scrying mirror that we all like. The reflection is there. And there's every chair is aimed at it. We would have assumed that this is clearly like the occult.
And that's what actually
right? Honestly,
cats see at a different flicker rate than us,
It
I
is,
heard.
though.
And so the reason
Yo.
cats don't stare at screens, especially the old
That was the
not viewer
tubes, yeah.
projection.
But
The
it
ones they
takes
work with.
it
the
would take
cathode
someone-
ray tubes.
It would take someone who's an alien, a foreigner to the situation, while the television is off all the time, to register and acknowledge this fact that is what's going on. But we can't accept it because we
yeah,
have
as an East Coaster, I'm kind of jealous because of people like in the West Coast or in the Midwest area, because that's where all the paranormal shit happens. It's always like in the western end of the, even like all the way towards
Like the
Alaska.
Midwest, where
You
there's
guys
like just some
have,
guy who's really bored.
you have
'Cause that's where you stare at the sky because you got nothing better to
you
do.
have the Montauk
On the East
Project.
Coast,
You have the
on the
Montauk
East Coast
Project
is not
and all
much.
of the Stranger Things is
You can't
about
see the sky on the East Coast.
Wait, what were you saying?
You can't
Montauk.
see this.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
If you're gonna say something, go ahead. Sorry.
I said you can't even see the fucking sky on the East Coast. There's too many buildings. That's why when you go to the middle of nowhere, you see UFOs like crazy because you can actually see the goddamn sky. If you're on the coast, you're in the middle of a canyon of buildings.
So
Yeah.
if you go to Montauk, the Camp Hero State Park is where Stranger Things is based, right?
I
And
could go there.
Obviously, the military used all the craziest things. The Philadelphia experiment even is really started in Montauk, and most of these secret experiments include taking children of military people, giving them therapy that led to MK Ultra mind control, traumatic drugging and electroshock therapy in order to create multiple personality disorders and make them into super soldiers and secret agents and things like that.
They
right?
just end up traumatizing a bunch of people and not doing anything useful.
You never know. But like the point is, New York does have some weird stuff, and the Ninja Turtles is kind of a response to the Montauk Project and the idea that there's ooze and everything going on. Yeah, East Coast got some stuff.
I'd say
True.
the drugs that the United States like allows to exist contribute something to the world. Because
California was
these
cool
things
until they
really got
banned
stamped
making
out
surfboards.
everywhere else. That'd be such a shame.
Now that we can't make surfboards because of the environmental disaster,
And I'm not talking about like smack. I'm talking about like rare hallucinogens that open, religious experiences to people who are either dying and or.
Well, weird alien shit still happens all the time in like South America and Mexico and stuff. We just don't hear about it because we don't live there, but I'm pretty sure they got some.
Wasn't there a
crazy
town in
shit going
Alabama
on.
that thought they had a leprechaun running around?
Bernie, get in here. I sent you the link. Isn't there something that you know about this? There's a bunch of stuff going on in Canada, East Coast, all over. Aliens across the Midwest. Yeah, there's definitely the thing with the Midwest is that you could always have like tornadoes, hurricanes, all these other disasters and everything, and they're just so weirdly anomalous that
Here
people...
in Brighton, where I live, historically, this neighborhood was famous as, instead of storefronts, each one was set up like an exhibit at the Natural History Museum, but instead inside was like 2 remaining members of the tribe of such and such, and they'd have their artifacts kind of on display and be willing to talk about them as much as possible. And it was called a cabinet of curiosities. Like in a curio is a smaller version in a city. And so there were kind of smaller people, and they would all end up living in kind of the same neighborhood, and people sorted themselves to some extent by size because of the architecture that was available in certain areas and may accommodate the lifestyle, a more comfortable lifestyle.
People do that
for
naturally.
people that
I
have different
actually
heights.
noticed that originally in high school or soon after that people tend to sort themselves by height. Like all my friends were about the same height as me. There were other groups that were shorter. There were other groups that were taller. But like, yeah, like.
But
every
and it's
group
obvious
tends
we do
to
it by
have-
race, right? Because like, or that
No,
that's
we
the
didn't.
trope is about all the black. Why do the black kids, all the Metco kids, sit
Height
together?
mogging,
in the
hard
lunchroom.
body.
Yeah, what is it called though when you want to do the other thing? Like for me, I have like a genetic disposition to befriend like everyone's clique. I want to go to the entire school and have a tall friend, a short
That's
friend.
called being a
Hey,
social
you know what? I
butterfly.
empathize with that. Like, I always felt like I didn't ever belong to a single clique, but I wanted to be cool with every clique.
I feel like we've got our own clique now. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a height-driven clique. That's the thing. It's there's like people from all over different beliefs or something. I feel like
That's a hype song too. Welcome to my clique.
Yeah.
No, the internet distorts shit so weirdly
that song,
sometimes.
dude.
Like I've had people tell me it's like, oh, I thought you were like 5'4", and then I've heard other people like, oh, I thought you were like 6'3". I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like I'm
You don't
neither of
know that
those
you're
things.
11 feet tall. Yeah.
No, I'm not 11 feet. That would be crazy being 11 feet tall.
People assume that I have legs.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, shout out to Robert. He's got a super awesome synthetic leg he's getting right now. I don't know. I just feel like there's something to this though. I want to like harp back to like Kurt's point that like we're living in suffering and everything is entertainment, because that kind of feels like what we did tonight. You know, like we're all aware that the world's full of suffering. Like we all suffer. You know, like there's a lot of suffering going on.
Can we admit that? So influencer and influenza sounding so darn similar. And
It is
what is the
true.
world kind of
Influenza
full of
means
at this point?
influence.
Dude, is influencer a disease?
Is people trying to like go viral by being influencers, and it's an influenza? You know, it's
Yeah.
what?
All right. So when it comes to the meta game, like if
Influencer
you had a
is the
choice,
Italian word for influence. That's
I bet it is.
if you had,
criminal.
One at a time, gentlemen.
no, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say like if you died and you had a choice to reincarnate and do life on Earth again, or move on to something where you don't know if it's worse or better, you just know it's something else, what would you choose?
No, Earth, because I'm not done here yet.
Wait,
100%.
From now on, we're waiting for Kurt to answer first, because look at him. He's just not gonna. He's gonna sit in the back.
I don't personally, I
I
don't mind. So Kurt, take it away.
Kurt, do it.
All right. Question.
I'll repeat the question. Yeah.
All right. So if you died and you had a choice to either try again through another reincarnation on Earth, or to move on to something else that you don't know is worse or better, you just know it's something else, what would you choose?
Okay, reincarnation. I've thought about this a lot. Like, I really actually have thought about this a lot. So I guess for me, the goal is like eventually, yeah, you want to kind of skip the cycle of reincarnation and become a god.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, I guess that is like kind of the goal, but like
Go Mormon. Sorry.
Yeah, you can be a little bit more proactive than that, I guess. That's a good way to put it. Because yeah, you can be more proactive because you can go back and you can either help like people like on other planets or your own planet. That might be a bad way to describe it, but yeah, essentially that's the gist. Like you still want to bring about good things in the world, even though like you're just kind of like fading in and out of like this surface level existence. You know, that's the whole main idea, and that's how I can describe it with only a short amount of time.
I like that, Kurt, and without in any way, shape, or form discounting any part of what you said. What I've heard as a slightly enhanced or more multidimensional, multifaceted analogy is that there are people who sit on the wall, and the goal is to get over the wall to the inside or maybe to the outside. But so most people, when they get to the top of the wall, they make the decision, right? Do you want to move forward with life on Earth, or maybe reincarnate back into a previous iteration of oneself? Help people who are going in both directions, no matter which way they're trying to head. Now, I'm just wondering if you've ever heard that paradigm, and that like, by being someone who talks about philosophy.
I'm so sorry.
But we're kind of wall sitters, and we're here trying to extend a hand to each other and to the audience to help them get closer to where they're
That's why
trying to be.
Xirtus is my spirit animal.
Yeah, you just want to get close to where we want to be, guys. You know?
Yeah, I will say, I heard what you said that time. Just the decibel boost on all these musical interludes is like, wow, it's like plus 10 decibels. So, yeah, no complaints. It's really, you know, boom.
Oh god, if I was a high school teacher, I would do this like every time. I would do this all day.
Well, he said he wouldn't interrupt you.
Signature
Kurt.
move.
That was me talking. So
yeah, I didn't say I couldn't interrupt everybody else. Right?
Shout out to Lucius Aurelian Channel, who actually was a history channel or a history teacher that now is a channel that teaches real history, and we're going to be having him on talking about the 5 eras, and yeah, it's.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Is that the 5 eras? Do you think that connects to the 5 major extinctions or the 5 yugas? And first, sorry, I wanted to comment, but I played that music. I agree to an extent that you would, for a few generations or 1,000, would want to like help other people get to Narayana, get to the Nirvana. But is it just me, or am I ready to leave this place? And I don't know if it's because I really have lived like so many lifetimes, or if it just feels that way because I got to visit so much of the world, let alone just in this lifetime, that I'm like, all right, I don't even need to do it again. Like I could visit a few more places. There still are some places. It's like the world's cool. And you could go back. Like the thing is, places change. Like I would reincarnate like again. I feel like if I've been doing it, I might as well. But
that's so interesting. Imagine like there's a chef cooking for you though, and you're like, I'm so satisfied with all the food that I'm eaten
done.
that I'm like ready to get up and leave your establishment. And they're like, I have sinned, and like now you must that somehow what they did wasn't up to par. Or yeah, my expression of the desire to come back to an earth-like, human-like reality, even if suffering, is part of that. That is more an expression of the fear of the unknown. Because the alternative presented in the question was, if you didn't know, if somehow the thing that you're coming back to isn't life here on Earth as a human, then.
But like the thing is like, so
there's a lot of unknowns there.
So the universe, so that just makes reincarnation a roguelike game where there's new dungeons to crawl, and if you die, you got to go back and pick up your backpack. Okay, like all right, that's fine.
Well, it serves a purpose because in it you serve the purpose of harvesting gold for the Anunnaki.
Right,
I mean,
that's
the
word.
thing. Yeah. Because
the
the reason why
purple monoatomic Anunnaki gold, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, we want to do a tutorial. We just can't show us peeing onto the metal grates in the sunlight.
Now, did you know that even in our urine and our excrement waste,
there's no
you can
urine
process
involved
platinum
in my
and gold. If you put them in centrifuges, there are heavy metals in them.
Bernie has to clear the room just to make sure
There
you
should
know.
not be heavy metals in your urine.
But it does require pure gold. You do have to have actual gold or silver.
Yeah.
But no urine.
Hold on.
Matter.
PSA,
but you might want to put a drop of blood in. It's not for a blood sacrifice. It's actually just so the process reproduces your own little biomatter with the monoatomics. It's science.
If you find heavy metals in your urine, see a nephrologist immediately.
Dude, if you're looking for heavy metals, see a psychologist. I think.
PCR machines exist, then I believe
if your urine tastes sweet, seek a doctor immediately. Like seriously.
If you're tasting your urine, again, seek a psychologist.
Exactly.
Urine is not supposed to taste sweet, okay? I don't care what people say.
Count it.
If you taste your urine and it tastes sweet, do not.
Yeah, if you piss on a wall and there's all of a sudden ants all over it, see a doctor. Tell them about it.
Yep.
Where's my this is not medical advice? This is the wrong.
This is medical advice. If any of that shit happens, see a fucking
there's
doctor.
never medical advice.
See a doctor. See a doctor if this happens is the only sound medical advice you should ever take from the internet.
Always see a doctor.
Always see a doctor.
Named what?
Never just listen to random YouTubers. Always seek a doctor.
But don't just
Hail Fauci.
Don't
Fauci.
Seek a doctor that you
I got
trust.
the beard and the hair right now. Sorry.
But
I
don't just
don't
stare
agree with the hailing Fauci though. That's wrong. And
don't just see a doctor. Don't just stare at a doctor from 100 meters away.
Get multiple opinions always.
Yeah, or find a doctor that you find to be intelligent and actually makes you understand things. Like my doctor is great. I've talked to a bunch of doctors who don't understand like diet or exercise at all, and like I found a doctor who actually like lifts weight and fucking eats properly and tells you, fucking like the diet advice the USDA gives you is garbage. Find a doctor who actually understands things and that you actually trust. Does your doctor tell you to drink a whole hour with you?
Does your doctor tell you to drink mineral water? Because that's the only.
No.
Eventually, the best doctors will be.
Yeah, seriously, drink mineral water, guys.
We need robot doctors.
My doctor actually told me to stay away from alkaline water.
We need AI that just scans our genome and like our whole buildup from like every single molecule.
As men, we're 6 males, as far as I can tell here on stream. The whole turn your head and cough thing, right? At what age did that stop for you guys, huh? Because it's like I'll talk another 5 seconds. There's eventually something called a self-exam, and like if you're having a hernia between your legs and your taint, and you don't know it until you turn your head and cough and put your hand there, then there's something else going wrong.
Is not attached. Then you need.
Sounds like someone has some trauma attached.
Eyes checked.
We'll let Sean talk about it.
If you need to turn your head and cough is not turn your head and cough
Son,
makes
son,
sure
we
your
live in
balls
a-
have
Not
attached.
everyone can see their balls. We're living in an obesity epidemic. You have to understand.
It's about the feeling the hernia pop out, right?
Wait, can I ask you, do you guys-
Is he seeing
Balls,
with
how
his
do you know you
fingers?
don't
Is
have
that what he's
ticks
doing?
and
Your doctor?
leeches
Is that what they were
down there?
doing?
I'm in
If you guys
Canada here.
can't
It's
speak one at a
dangerous
time,
out
I'm
here.
gonna play another song. All right.
Yeah, I have a question. I have one question for everybody.
Yes, you the one in the back there. Yes, you.
Do you guys trust the medical institutions of today?
Fuck no, especially after
Like the
first
FDA?
Medical
conversation.
institutions. Like if
Like
you
the Food and
talk
Drug
about, like,
Administration?
no, because what they do is they take studies and then they simplify them for normal people to understand. No, if you really want to know what's going on, read white papers. Like find out what they did to test something and what the fucking numbers and the results of those tests looked like. And then figure out how to
I
live
gotta
your
go.
life based
I
on
gotta
that.
go.
Don't take advice on somebody else who's reading those papers and telling you how they interpret them.
We could turn this into a philosophical thing. Kurt, what do you think about the idea of trust in general?
Whoa, broad topic there.
I love
So,
the
when I first think of the word of trust, I think almost collectively of where we are as a society, and like, do you trust the powers that be?
Right? Do you trust the FBI after they were recently caught stealing the civil gold treasure from
Okay,
civilian
one more
funds?
time. Let's try not
Do
to
you
interrupt.
trust
Oh, the
the
Bernie did
FBI
just get here. But
now
Okay,
fully
beautiful.
caught red-handed stealing the civil gold war
Okay,
treasure?
beautiful. But what is trust? I mean, no. What's the point of trust? So go on. Sorry, Kurt. You keep going.
Well, you can't functionally have any reality at all without some sense of trust, and I think that is honestly that is the, I guess, part of the good thing about what we've had in the West and why we've been the dominant culture. It's not just because, you know, imperialism in and of itself is not good. I want to put that. There's a lot of bad things that came out of Western influence, but I think part of why this society grew and exploded the way it did is because there was some sort of sense of trust there. It's like there are many communities out there where we can just kind of, you know, walk and go about our business, not
Now
really
that the
worry about
trust
many
is
people harassing
falling.
us, you know. So yeah, and so like I trust my other people here. I trust my friends. Like, okay, we're gonna have a conversation. It's gonna have a rat-a-tat. I'm gonna rat a little bit, then you'll tap back at me. You know, it's
Yo,
like
Kurt,
just
I got a
like
question.
conversation.
Kurt,
Yeah,
I got a
yeah.
question. Do you
Tat
trust
it at me.
Kurt? Do you trust life? Like
Yes.
life as an intelligent force that knows exactly what it's doing to all of us. Do you trust life?
I mean, that's a whole lot of loaded assumptions, but sure, why not?
yeah, that's a big question, and I like the
I mean-
casual response too.
Cool, yeah.
I don't trust Donnie. I don't trust Donnie. I don't trust the other guy too, the blue one.
Is it
Don't
because
trust him either.
Donnie's a Darko?
I don't trust any of them. But I think that's the bad thing is like how does our outlook of trust look in the future? And I don't think it's looked particularly great for a little while. So yeah, I think trust is something we probably should open up and examine, and it's a very good question to ask and a very good question for society to be like, okay, how do we get a sense of this so everything
So
doesn't
do
go off
you
the rails?
trust
You know,
the FBI after they were caught red-handed stealing the Civil War gold. Do you?
yes,
trust-
yes, I
Wait,
trust
what
the
happened?
FBI.
When
Are
did
you
that
happy?
happen?
So yeah, I'm gonna say I want to answer. I want to answer now. I trust everyone. I don't trust everyone the same. I have different trusts. I can trust in, rely in confidence that certain people will behave certain ways. The same that the Illuminati can trust that drug addicts will behave a certain way. Heroin addicts are going to rob radios out of cars in the 1980s in New York to buy heroin. I can trust in that, you know, something like that. Crack will destroy communities. I can trust in that. People that put others first will, like, if that's part of it's ingrained in them from a really young age, that's a perpetual
Right? Do you trust
thing.
in humanity and trust in humanity to overcome
not a-
what is a corrupt system?
I'm not a
clearly?
Bernaysian. I don't believe in people. I believe in persons. I think that, like Men in Black, persons are smart, people are stupid. I think that persons I think 8 billion people could die and we would still make it as a species.
And the multiple of
billion?
anecdotes is not data.
Are, so you're
That's like
saying
that's
you're on
related to
the
what you're saying.
globalist kill off 80%?
No,
of the
I don't want that to
population
happen.
still hate,
I want that to happen, but I'm just saying that that it's the individuals that make the difference a lot of the time. I do think that strength in numbers is important, but we've seen that a lot. People are like, wow, if one rises up, everyone will follow. And they're just waiting for one to rise up so that everyone will follow. Like there's obviously a correlation with
key
it.
to settling Antarctica / over the ice wall.
Yes or no? It's a simple question.
Exactly.
Yes or no?
So every Democrat now on CNN starts their interview with this bellwether question, and it's a purity test. And they say, do you accept the results of the 2020 election? And do you admonish Trump for not accepting the results? And now they're like with Marco Rubio, they're like, will you accept the results of the future election? In the past, those types of tests are
Except the
I trust that the election will
the punchline
always be rigged.
ruling on Benjamin Netanyahu genocides.
But so the punchline is Alex Stein has 4 questions he always asks his guests, and he got Vivek Ramaswamy kind of in trouble for asked because he answered the questions rather frankly. It's 9/11. It's not inside job. It's is it exactly like the government tells you or not? And then he says moon landings real or fake, Earth flat or round, and maybe who killed JFK. No, maybe there's a 4th one that I'm missing, but that's like our version of trying to sense where someone is on certain issues, multidimensional reality, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the government obviously is not telling the truth on a lot of things. Like, you can trust the government to
They're
do
lying.
their job without
Trust that they're
trusting
lying.
everything they
You
say.
can trust that they're lying. Exactly.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
trust
You
that
know,
they're
like
lying.
You can trust they will take that Civil War gold from you 100 out of 100 times if you call to let them know that you have found it, right?
How long ago
Hell
did
yeah.
they do this? What happened?
I think
See, Frodo found this ring, but humans are tricksy, and Master would never like us Negroes. But you know, I mean, we tricksy humans. Yeah?
my gentle Jesus. I think it's like just part of nature, right? Like crabs keep evolving, kind of a thing. Like people will continue to trust in something that,
Are
as
there
long as
crab
they don't.
people below California?
There are definitely crab people everywhere, bro. Crabs, they're just, yeah. I think the thing is also the whole world's a crab. You've heard my whole thing on crabs, right? The crabs keep evolving. Here, hold on.
Yeah, the crab world, right? Like just.
I mean,
like
that's
it's
in one
the world,
clade
it's
though.
the
They're
crab
all still
world.
arthropods.
Also, whales keep fucking with yachts, which is cool. That could be energy-directed weapons, though. Like, someone could be fucking with sound to make whales do shit.
I like it.
Yeah, imagine like they just realized that the sonar was what was fucking with them, so they started attacking them.
Yeah.
No, I like
One thing
Moses' point.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I like the point, and I'm trying to remember the entirety of the point. If you
Oh,
want
but someone was asking, are whales directed by frequencies? And yes, they are certainly affected by this, and they avoid the ship's motors. They've learned because they have somewhat large brains.
That's what I'm saying.
As
So
far as
they
I-
realized that
your
that's
previous
what's
point,
fucking
it was
with
about.
them.
Oh yeah, it was about the question that they asked on CNN. Like, do you accept the election
yes.
results? And it's like, well, it's like the question in and
Yeah,
of
back-
itself. It seems like now it's like, it's almost like a trigger test. Like, which side of the political divide triggers you personally? And it's like, it seems at this point the biggest protest is just to be like, you know what? I just don't care. You know.
Yeah, and
I
the
just
question is
don't
like,
care what
do
the
you
election
think
results
that
are.
Donald Trump knows that he lost? And it's like, you're asking me about what I think about what someone else knows. That might be a cartoon character for all I know, and has been since 1984.
Yeah, it's like it's just like how ridiculous things are. It's like,
But, so-
Oh my God!
TDS, the asking that
Happening right
question-
now.
Asking that question is a form of manifestation of TDS. And Sam knows what TDS is.
Exactly.
He talks it every day in the headlines.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Through the headlines.
the internationally acclaimed and world famous, now available in Korea and the United States, Sam Newsman.
Me? Oh,
In the house.
Oh, stop it. Oh, stop it. Stop it.
my favorite trusted media news puppet.
Oh, look, I'm blushing. I'm blushing.
Good to see
I
you.
love
buddy.
you, Sam the Newsman. You're the best.
So Sam, did you know that whales herd fish in the ocean and keep them in, you know, how sometimes you see they're just pulling up tuna after tuna after it. The whales are like sheepdogs in the ocean. And the reason that we need a certain amount of them is not to like trim the herds of the fish, but in order to literally scare the bejesus out of the fish and initiate their natural instinct to stay in schools so we can fish them more easily. But
Well, I knew about that, but one of the things that the reason why it took me so long, because I kept scratching my head, wondering the last thing that I heard before I came live on here was someone saying that, hey, if your pee is sweet, you should go see a doctor.
I said
Something to
that.
Oh, you know
What?
what?
That was you.
I said
What
that.
if
Yeah.
you're a puppet though? Maybe puppets are
That
different.
catches the
Well, listen, I
Sam
was just
Newsman ear.
Listen, I was
Because
just
it's true.
wondering if this now become one of those streams. Do we just call it only Xirtus?
This is YouTube,
Right.
not Twitch. I'm sorry.
Right.
No, no, I'm just saying.
streams a
that-
whole new meaning now, isn't it? I mean, come on.
But it's
There we
true though. It's a telltale sign that you're a serious diabetic.
You know
and
what
should-
we're? Do you know what we're talking about, Sam? This is a weird.
I thought it just meant you
conversation.
finally drank enough beer and that it like smelled the same on the.
So what it is?
No, if
Hold
your pee
on.
is sweet.
Oh yeah, no, that's a big deal.
I'm gonna explain it. I'll do my best. So the Ormus cult is, and I say cult
Only
really-
Sam's.
creative utopian living together. There's a group of people around the world that believe that the ancient Egyptians used to get gold turned into powder with lenses at the pyramid.
Which
and-
I make, but without lenses, and
Right,
without
and-
urine.
Here's an example of a guy who
Collect
doesn't
it.
drink his own pee and does collect gold. You don't have to use your
It's
pee.
actual
But
gold. You can see the gold flakes there.
however, I grew up in Santa Cruz with tons of hippies peeing on these 10-foot metal oil pans so that they could
Oh,
dehydrate.
God.
So they,
What?
could, so they could dehydrate the urine, so they could have
Oh.
all of the
It's
metals, and stuff,
fertilizer,
which they used as fertilizer.
it's ammonia, or you can make explosives with it
Yeah.
if you're
I heard
really.
redheads do that because
Thanks
sometimes
a
it
lot.
goes
Oh,
through
is
them
that the
metabolize.
transition between hippie to terrorist? Is when you start taking your pee?
Dude, we
It's
found
when
it, Bernie. That's why. Oh,
It's
yes.
just when you go to college. It's just
Whoa,
college. It's
whoa.
called university. It's not that. Yeah. But no,
Sorry.
so I just want to say that because it's really important. People do this because when you excrete
Yeah.
urine, you have minerals in your urine, and a lot of the time there is gold, especially if you eat gold, right? That would be something to think. I don't know. Just got
But it has to
Drink
be.
the
You have to
water.
pee in copper, though, right? You said copper is the key, right?
well, copper
Yeah,
can
business-
electrocute stuff.
No, I just use pure gold, gold on gold, gold anode, gold cathode, and then the anode breaks down into the Ormus, that is the monoatomic gold.
Right. So you can take a gold ring. You don't really need to pee out.
Gold bar, 24 karat gold bar.
But
No,
if you
salt
aren't
water
if you
and a
aren't
little
pay
bit
to
of-
win in this RPG called life, and you need to go out and Minecraft your own gold, peeing is a way to get gold. I'm just
Well,
Now,
saying.
you get
everyone's
and
heard-
every other element that is in your urine, and every like that's the key part, and you're magnifying all of it in the same size, so that like they're thinking they're getting gold out of their piss, but they're getting everything that's out of their piss to the same extreme. So you're just magnifying your piss and putting it right back into you. And is drinking
Yeah.
piss healthy?
Probably
No,
shouldn't do
they're
that.
not.
Probably should do that.
I think there's like
So
a
there
system
you
you
go.
buy to get rid of that for good reason.
Sam, you've heard this joke though about a guy pulling out a $20 bill or a $100 bill from his wallet and throwing it down a porta potty, and someone goes, "What the heck were you doing?" He goes, "Well, I dropped a $5 bill down there, but I wasn't going to go down there for $5, you know." And
What?
by the very same token, historically, there was something called toshers, and people in certain, I think it was in London, they would throw gold coins into the toilets with the idea that the person who was cleaning it out and responsible for making sure that all that stuff moved through and was processed somehow would have a process to recover rubble and, you know, the ancient fatbergs, and would also then get a lot of gold. And some of the richest people were the people that were willing to spend.
Sam's
4
looking
days
this up
below
right
ground.
now to make sure this is actually true. And
No,
that-
listen. What I'm looking
It's
up
called
is trying to figure out
toshers,
what
yeah.
the hell's
TOSHERs
train he is
in
on.
gold, yeah.
Because man, you wind him up is like a wind up monkey. It's like you sit there and just wind him up and you just go. Like, how many rabbit trails are up there in that brain of yours? What strain are you smoking? Could you please pass that along here? Good grief.
This is
I want
tobacco.
some.
I also, I'm mixing my wisdom, so I got to be careful.
Honestly, man, you should always wear enough gold on you to be able to buy like a full-on McChicken meal, you know, just
But
in case.
not enough to get kidnapped and robbed or hide it safely.
Well,
right?
well,
Have it,
what's
but have it.
Morgan?
I've never seen a McDonald's
Morgan
there.
Freeman wears enough gold to be able to afford him a nice burial. Apparently, like wherever he is in the world,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Oh,
which is a good policy, you know.
That was the
apparently
tradition of putting gold coins over the eyes of the dead, so that
smart
you're
about it.
apparently
CIA
CIA agents, CIA operatives would wear like gold, literally gold link like bracelets, just because that would just be the way to like trade your way through anything if
Yeah,
you needed
buy
to
their
acquire
way
a
out.
weapon.
100
Yeah.
right? Like 9 out of 10 times they got out of a situation because they left the gold bracelet.
It's like 24 karat gold, man. Like you're not gonna say no to this. You could melt it. You could do whatever you want
gold
with
is
it.
gold, baby. Paid in gold. What's better than being paid in gold?
Well, see, secretly we
Well,
all
it
have
sucks,
mange.
because it's heavy.
right here.
The
Paid
reason
in
where you
gold
don't
is
have
heavy.
hair is because we have mange because of all this heavy metal poisoning. Because you definitely don't want to eat gold, right? It's toxic, but
Oh,
definitely
well,
wearing gold.
I
is
like to eat
fine.
gold
Anything
sushi.
oxidized,
seen
once
gold
it
flakes on a
oxidizes,
burger
it's
before.
poisonous.
Yeah,
That's
I ate
the
gold
key
flakes
part.
on a
It's
burger.
very easy for it to oxidize, and as soon as it oxidizes, you're poisoning
Gold does
yourself.
not
with your
oxidize
toxic
easily.
metals.
What?
Yeah,
Gold is like
gold
the
is.
one
Eat
thing
some
that
lead,
doesn't
eat
bad.
some nickel, some
Oh,
molybdenum.
lead, aluminum,
you know?
yeah.
Have you ever held a
fuck with
gold
that,
bar?
you're dead.
Like a gold
Lead,
brick?
dead, dude.
Have you ever
No.
held a
I've
gold
held a
No, I
I've
have
held a
not.
gold
gold
bar
gold
before.
brick?
No,
The gold is really soft. You can take your thumb and make an imprint. on it.
Yeah.
24 karat.
But
Tell
it's
you not to
pretty
fucking
heavy.
do that.
It's deceptively heavy.
Yeah, you're not supposed to
And
stack
their
them more
gold
than
is-
I think
gold is
5
very, very
high.
heavy.
When they're
I held a
in
little
bars.
small
being
gold bar.
bars
It was
built
like this
for-
big.
If you stack gold bars higher than
Wait. What happened? Everything collapsed. Where'd everyone go?
Nice,
And now it's
nice
just
to meet
being-
you.
Hey, American, how are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Looking along, and it just seems like that everything shut down, and now it's just you and me. I don't have any access to any of the tools, though.
Well, you've worked on your radio voice quite a bit. I like it a lot. Yeah. So yeah, not trying to.
I've been doing radio for a long time.
Yeah. If you're willing to share, have you done like other like non puppets? Well, I guess yeah. Not to break character or anything, but yeah. Do you have any?
Are
other
you trying to
projects?
ask him about his personal gender on air? I'm
Wait a minute. It's
give
either
you
my
5
gender, are
seconds
you
on
talking
your-
about the producers? The producers over there? I'm a puppet. I'm talking like so. Like, what are you talking about? The producers? Hey, he's talking about you guys.
I am.
No, I
Hold
mean,
on, wait a second.
I am a quarter puppet on my grandmother's side.
I guess if there was any other
That
like
was brilliant.
projects, like if you
Oh yeah,
did
so
it-
you're talking about those guys over there. Well, listen, I didn't want you to hear them. I didn't want you to hear them talking. They'll disrupt the whole thing, and then you won't be able. Then you'll be distracted. You'll hear their voice instead of my beautiful puppet voice. Can't do that. Hold on, wait. What was that,
Hard
guys?
enough to stay
wait.
focused as is.
yes, it very much is.
He wanted to say
But it's has anyone heard the term yucks? Because when you go to broadcasting school, Sam Newsman, have you been to broadcasting school?
No, broadcasting school? Are you kidding me?
Because that's what they say.
Broadcasting
Like on
school
sports
is
radio, when
being
you
in
get
the field.
yucks, you know,
But he was a
Broadcasting school is being in the field.
he was a puppet goy.
Broadcasting right now, baby.
An American time
Since
machine.
Roswell,
You
I've
both
been
have great
doing this
voices
a
for
long
radio.
time. Yeah.
Casey Kasem
Setting the
signing
standard,
off.
raising the bar every single Saturday morning, keeping the magic and nostalgia alive every single Saturday morning. You know, the government took away your cartoons. You know that, right? They did. Legislation. They said that you needed to have animal shows and other educational materials.
And now kids
as
want to be
opposed
animals.
to cartoons blowing up stuff and action figures and toys.
No, they took
Which
away
we
Jimmy
know
Neutron.
that's what
'cause
Saturday morning is all about.
Too many kids were trying to make meth labs after Jimmy Neutron, so they turned them all into furries with the Animal Planet. Discuss.
Discuss.
And that is how we lost a whole generation, ladies and gentlemen.
I was always a fan of Sheen. Ultra Lord.
So it occurred to me so there was a behind the scenes look we got on some media production that Xirtus was doing with Paranoid American and David Plate. And one thing that I like, they were asking Andreas for if Kubrick had any character that would be the genie when you rub a bottle and a genie pops out, who would it be? And Andreas was shaking his head, going, guys, come on. Isn't it obvious? And it was HAL 9000. And so recently I was calling Andreas, asking him for advice about how to pitch a show or develop an idea for kind of a reality show or a variety thing. And he suggested that I talk to Gemini and like even tell it that I know Blake. Why not? You know, it can't hurt. And I thought he was kind of trying to get rid of me, but then after I heard him be like, no, Ray, see, Ray, there's a genie, and like outside of the computer doing this cool thing where you can use it. It's actually a really useful thing to have. It's almost like an executive assistant who, anytime you ask them a simple question, it gives you like a book report back. And then there's like terms that I'm learning in the industry about a literary television agent and all the things that I just would not have discovered by Googling the subject
I call Gemini Gem. It's like Gem and I, you know what I mean? It's like, it's Showtime synergy. Gem, you know, that's how I feel about Gemini. I feel pretty good about her. She's great.
I actually interviewed Samantha Newark a couple of years back. Yes, I have. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, Gem is my name.
Dude, we're gonna have to connect with Gem. That's the deal. I think that's the plan, is we're gonna become synergy. And then through that, we're going to save the world. We're going to find a rock star, pop star girl, and then she's going to be the martyr. But we're going to be synergy. I think that's how it works.
She'll remember me because she was fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like
a great time.
I feel like you're rememberable, Sam. I don't know. I can never forget a face, but I wouldn't forget you. That's for sure.
You know, that's what all of the celebrities say. You know, I talk to them off record. I have a whole bunch of interviews, some of them that I've never released. So, but they're in the vault. You know, Disney has a vault.
Prince had a vault.
Well, Sam Newsman has a vault. How about that?
Well, we're about 2 hours deep. Is there anything else you guys want to make sure we cover? I mean, we talked about peeing in jars, Ormus, making gold.
Yes. My God. So if you haven't seen the Joe Rogan, Terrence Howard podcast,
we started with Terryology.
And then Jeremy Reese went on and did like a multi-stream with him today where he was like covering lots of it.
Jeremy talked with Terry? No.
He was just covering
He just
it,
covered it and marked it. Yeah, I
was restreaming it and he was like debating aspects of it, but then I really think there's something to Terrence's linchpin model, and that it's essentially counter space and how to deal with electromagnet and anti.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there's anyone I'm going to talk about it, it'll be Jeremy.
The point of all of it was right at the end of the stream. Then Terrence Howard was watching it on my channel and comments. I'm like, shit, there goes the chance of having him on. Fuck.
And again, the whole thing everyone's missing is that from age 40
you never
to
know
53,
who's watching. That's the point
backwards.
of the point of it, right?
Well, probably was you know what? He probably now wants to prove he's right.
Right. So the thing is, the invitation is open.
Celebrated.
I want to have him on and like especially present at APEC and his linchpin model, and then also the Walter Russell diagrams are another key part of it, and like that deserves episodes all on its own. But the 20-some different octave periodic tables that he has, and essentially it's all just pieces.
Those are the most dangerous weapons we have. If we didn't have the periodic table and we stopped teaching it, do you know how much safer the future would be? Like we can give people language and math. Enough people know enough about it. Stop teaching people about chemistry.
Some people would know, and it'd still be dangerous. I think it's more dangerous that less people know. I want everyone to go to Sam Newsman on Instagram. Go to samnewsman.com or Instagram/Sam Newsman. Go to richmond.com/exclusive. You can click on the Reader's Choice ballot. This is an kind of an election. This is another thing that you can do besides using chemistry to save the world. You can vote for Sam Newsman as the best morning radio show. And so all you got to do is go to this page and you can actually select a group. You can go down to entertainment. And then from entertainment, you go, I screwed it up. Go back to the page, Andreas. Dang it. Where is it? Entertainment. And then from entertainment, you go to morning show. You can search local morning show. And it's, where is it? It's best local morning show. And then Sam Newsman is like already there. But like, make sure that once you sign in, you can do this every year and make sure that Sam Newsman is number one all the time. Like people acknowledge it.
If you look
at Elvis Duran, get rid of him. We need Sam Newsman at the top.
There's a whole bunch of shows there. A couple of them are nationally syndicated. Last year, we made the top 5. The top 5 voting is in July, so hopefully we make the top 5 again. And last year, we actually made the top 3 as a completely independent radio show on Saturday morning.
Yeah,
So
this is
those are all
fighting-
some of the big boys on there too.
This is how you fight the Illuminati. Like, you get in people's lives, you get in people's cars, you get in people's minds. He's like, you got to do it.
Here,
This
here,
way.
here,
Yeah.
here.
Go to some
Illuminati confirmed.
bro.
That's right.
We're very naughty. It's
They
just-
could also
Zirtus,
kill
I
us
guess if I
too,
could just
though,
say one thing
you know?
to totally
Very,
contradict
very
what I
naughty.
said about not learning chemistry is that when the next time there's a formula shortage and the grocery
They'll
store
have no
chains
idea
actually
what to
shut
do,
down,
so it's
you're going to
great.
need to know people who know how to distill plants into fatty liquids that are healthy for humans to drink and consume. Otherwise, the baby is just not really going to grow very much. And so chemistry does have its purposes if you're going to use it for the right things.
Isn't
But,
that like the hexane factories that like press seeds and shoot weird oil through, like weird gas through them to suck the oil out?
Y'all better
Or
check
animal
out
products,
American
or
Time Machine, the greatest music on the internet. And that's
Oh,
saying
great.
something because I make some of my own. But there's a couple songs that we've made together. I think if you look up American Time Machine, Dancing by Myself, is that the one? There's a great song.
You
that
had
we
you
did
had a
together.
song called
The
Pre-Planned
irony
C-Section Birth,
of
right?
you guys having a collaborative song, Dancing by Myself. I love it.
Oh, that's poignant. Make sure you guys follow Terrorisk. I want you guys to all follow Terrorisk. He also makes music. We're gonna do a collab soon, and then that will be my new favorite song because I'm a
That would be
narcissist.
lovely. I would love to do that.
That's
I'm
how
going
we're.
to do that.
We'll get Kurt involved just because like a love triangle would be like the ultimate musical, and then
How about
Sam.
It'll be like
Right.
Kendrick
I'm
Lamar,
with you,
Drake, and Travis Scott. You know,
You're all
You
beautiful.
still got to let Sam sign off, obviously.
You're all beautiful people, but Sam, you're one.
Just
heck
take us
of a
home.
beautiful
Take us home, Sam Newsman.
Take
We
you
love you.
home. Well, thanks everyone for having a fantastic evening. Make sure that you're following Xirtus all over social media. And in doing so, you'll be able to see the next show. Until then, we'll see you next time from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Xirtus' channel.
Advance philosophy